You saw
glory.
Steph's on her way home.
Oh, good. No, I did not see that.
Yep. Hi,
Hello,
everybody.
Welcome to the behind the scenes
Hi.
pre-show where we
I'm
discuss.
Nick Camacho this week.
No, you're not.
I am.
Well, I
I'm
guess
in
you are.
front
Yeah,
of
you're ahead of
the
in front
Biscuit
of
Bomber.
the Biscuit Bomber.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Jeff and Captain Nick and Steph today. Rick is not available, and
you, of
Nick
course.
Camacho. Yeah, me for beginning and end, but yeah.
Nick Camacho cannot be here.
No.
He was here with us just a few minutes ago, but before we went on the air. But it was just to kind of communicate with us about some stuff going on. So.
Yes, Bruce, I was affected by the Rogers outage, but actually for me it was just a minor inconvenience. I didn't mind it, actually.
I thought you would have been going nuts without internet.
At first I was, but then I just kind of had the radio on and I read a bit and I kind of liked it.
But hey, this is not bad.
Yeah, I didn't mind it at all. My little transistor radio.
Good.
What, the one you have in case of nuclear
Correct.
attack?
Yes.
Do you hand crank it?
I have one that I can hand crank, yeah.
Good for you. Brilliant.
It's batteries or hand crank, or I think it does have a plug-in adapter. It's a 3.
Brilliant.
Yeah. My father used to have a flashlight. I think he had from the war that you squeezed like this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hi, Cheryl. Hi, IL.
No,
Jeff,
you're sounding like someone
Jeff,
from China.
you look like you're standing around a campfire, Jeff, or something.
I could. That's one of the special effects that it does. I think.
Oh, does it? Okay, cool.
But if it's connected to my app,
You going to make s'mores?
I'm not planning on it. I'm trying to fill in because if it's off, then it's like the lighting's not good here because I just have a fluorescent fixture right there
Got it.
coming down on my head. Nick's familiar. It was the print
Let's
shop.
hope it doesn't come down on your head.
Well, I hope it doesn't. Yeah. But
Your hair's looking lovely and bright and white and shiny.
maybe that's because I have. It's a great. What do they call that? A key light, hair light.
Yeah, key light.
But it's not. But I don't have one on my face. It's probably good. Good thing. I could go like this.
Looks fine. Exactly.
The whole show.
Hi,
And
Craig
your
in
camera
Montana.
is compensating very nicely for the color cast.
Good.
Because neon is not good. It turns everything green. Bleh.
Well, both of your videos are very clear, and your audio is very clear, so it's all good.
Good. Let's see. Do we have our excrement?
I'll give you a call, Jeff, on that other method.
Oh yeah,
we
please
have.
do. Please do. Let me see here. It should be still there. Hey, I'm getting a call from somebody. Oops. On my
Skype.
Hello.
hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
Sir.
I can hear you
Calling
as
the
well.
golden shot.
Do you want to check your tracks or anything before I mute myself?
Are you're still in StreamYard
Oh,
too?
yeah.
Right?
Just a minute.
Oh, I just wanted to just to make sure. Okay, and I'll mute myself on StreamYard as well.
All right, if you've got an alphabetical list, where does McEwen come? You think it would be MC, wouldn't you? Or perhaps it's MA. Perhaps it's McEwen.
Okay, so I'm back on StreamYard
No.
now.
Oh, there it is. It is. It's MAC. I'm wondering why I couldn't find it. There we go. So I'm just sending emails to people.
Somebody unmuted my mic?
I did. Sorry. Did
Oh,
you not
no
want me
problem.
to?
No, I was just because I did the same thing. I'm surprised it didn't mute it again.
No, we had a few hiccups with Clean Feed last week, so we're trying Skype to see if that's a better solution or.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Last week and the week before, the last couple of
Yep,
episodes.
that's right.
Clean
It just
Feed
kept
drops
dropping.
on us.
Oh, okay.
Now, you get what you pay for. We weren't paying anything for it. We're not paying for Skype either, but we're
Yeah.
going to try Skype this week. Hello, Cheryl Mendraki from Ohio.
And Craig Messerman from Montana.
Cincinnati, I think, right, Cheryl? And remind us your husband's name. I think you were at a meetup in, well, it must have been Cincinnati or it may have been Columbus. Maybe you guys drove
Tony
up
Smith.
from Columbus. Hello, Tony Smith. Craig Messerman.
IL.
IL? Was that my phone? I need to.
No,
put
that was
mine.
mine. Sorry.
Okay. It was mine too.
Yeah.
I need to silence it. Silence! All right. Do we have the sound tech in the live
No,
audience?
haven't seen him yet.
Okay. So you all in there can act as assistant sound techs. How are our levels, audio levels?
I'll speak, and then Nick, you should speak a little bit too, please.
A little bit too. Okay.
Great. That was great speaking there, Nick.
Thank you. It's one of my talents.
Yeah. Now, if we could just figure out how to do this when we're doing the show.
Bruce
you just
says
shut
sound
up.
was great, and Bruce is a Canadian, and I trust him very much, so I'm sure he's
Oh,
right.
right. Okay. We all trust the Canadians.
Up on Georgian Bay there, in a beautiful place. He lives up in a beautiful place on Georgian Bay.
Right.
Oh, very nice. Thank you, IL, with the pronunciation
Shy.
key there. Shy. IL, shy. How y'all doing?
All of y'all. All of y'all.
All y'all, including IL. IL.
Well,
so
I'm
confused.
sure he feels suitably butchered now.
Thank you, Neil. Mason, Ohio. Tom met up at Pittsburgh. Oh shoot, I thought you guys came out to like a Cleveland meetup once too, but I'm getting them all confused.
Just got a message from Steph, Jeff, you might want to read.
Okay. I will. Oh, was that what was making our phones make the noises?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Some old crafty hen tonight.
Oh boy.
Old crafty hen. Oh. As long as that's not what you're calling your wife or something, that's fine.
No, he is old and crafty, but
Not a hen.
no.
Good dog. Good girl.
Okay, let me do a sound check on the soundboard, which is entitled, the software is entitled Sound Bite. Bite me.
You're listening to the
Baby.
That's probably too loud.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
How's that sound?
Sounds pretty good.
Good.
Where I am.
Any clicking or crackling or anything like that yet?
I haven't
Nope.
heard any.
No.
So I have to
Hi, Tanya.
give kudos to, and I don't remember who it was, but it was somebody in our live audience that I believe works in sound, maybe. But he said it sounds to him like the issue is one of bitrate mismatch.
Ooh.
And at the time I said I don't think I have a way of controlling the bit rate of the sound, like 44.1 versus 48 kilohertz.
Okay.
And but I did some research and I found that I could indeed control what was coming out of audio hijack, and so
What's
now
Nick
it's
doing?
set to 48. I don't know. He's
I'm sorry. I've got slightly sweaty arms and my
Oh,
pressed
he's
into
aimed himself
table.
out.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
just putting them in front
putting it
of
in
the
front of the fan.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
just trying.
I thought he was making a signal or something.
Sorry.
Okay, we're getting the signal, Nick.
Don't know what the signal is, but we're getting it. The one you want to worry about is that.
Was that fire?
That's the Air Force signal for you're on fire. Yeah, it probably is. I don't know if it's international or not.
The signal that I know is when everybody's running away from the jet.
Yeah. Yes.
That's not good. Everybody's running.
Right.
Let's get out of here. All right. So, it sounds like our sound. Anyway, long story short, I did some tweaking of audio bit rates and stuff like that, and I'm fingers crossed hoping that that was the issue with the crackling, because I would love to use what I'm using back again, the audio hijack as a virtual mixer, because it's going to work out so much better for me when I'm like at Oshkosh
Traveling
doing
and
a
stuff,
live
yeah.
show, maybe.
But wow, isn't the
Absolutely, yeah.
community amazing? I mean, think of
Yeah.
the resources we got out there. That's great.
And I just wanted to say to him, I kind of blew it off like, no, that's not the problem. But then I learned later, oh, I think he was onto something.
Are you eating crow here, Jeff?
I am.
How is it?
Tasty.
Is it tasty?
Very
Yummy.
tasty. Wait a minute. No, it's not supposed to be tasty, right? Eating
No.
crow
It's
should be
not.
really bad.
Like you got a fur ball, only
Yeah.
got a feather ball.
I hate it when I go in and get those fur balls. Okay. Reaper, let's turn the recorder on.
Recorder's on.
Me. And don't worry, we're not about to start. We're going to wait for Miss Steph for just a bit. And then if it takes too long, then we'll go ahead and start and she can join us.
She said to join. She would join in progress, but that's okay.
Oh, she did. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
We
Well,
have her permission.
Well, very good then. Let me get Evernote right here and soundbite.
Because that Captain Nick, it's getting late over there,
Yeah,
Oh yeah, poor old me.
we gotta think about all our elderly people
that's
and
right.
getting to
Yeah.
bed.
Our
Those
athlete
old age
here.
pensioners amongst us.
Hey, I'm not that far behind him, so he's not that old.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me make this a different color. text
Yeehaw!
color.
I'm
So-
ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Let me change the color of this so I don't read it. And this one too. So we're without our freight dog, or what do you call them? Trash hauler.
Trash hauler, yes.
He's not with us today, and neither is our low and slow pilot. Although,
How low can you get?
I mean, you could probably
And he's
use
pretty
that.
slow too.
Yeah, we're all slow.
Not a pilot, and I'm slow.
I was listening to one of the shows, the podcasts that I love to listen to, and I slowed it down because I was trying to find something in what they were saying. Actually, one of their chapter images, and it was like it went by so fast. I wanted to kind of freeze it at that point, and so I went to 0.5. Tanya, I know you're in the audience and you listen to No Agenda. I put it on 0.5, and I was laughing my head off because they sound like they're drunk. At 0.5. I'm thinking I need to listen to our show to see how we sound, but we probably sound like we're just very, very, very drunk.
Very elderly, yes.
Yes.
We probably sound drunk when we're just at normal speed, don't we?
I probably. Yeah. Yeah. Let's
because
not
we
talk
are?
about that. We're not yet.
Not yet.
Oh yeah. Should I get a
Yeah, get a beverage.
beverage? Okay, and then we'll start. I promise. Okay.
No problem.
Beverage is necessary equipment for the podcast.
It's a bit hot and sticky at the moment,
Hot and sticky.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those sort of uncomfortably.
Yeah, not much
Warm
breeze or
evening.
anything. Yeah.
No, we got the windows all wide open.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be invaded by moths before the evening's out.
Oh, great.
Well, with all these bright lights and the windows wide open. The good thing is this new Puda is stone cold. I mean, it
nice.
doesn't produce
Doesn't
an
get hot
ounce
at
of
all, huh?
heat. Yeah,
Great.
yeah, it's brilliant. And
Okay.
dead quiet.
Let's go.
In honor, hang on.
Oh,
Of
sorry. Yeah.
our guest host from one of our guest hosts from last week, Jim Mercado. This is his Fly Acme episode 500 design.
Yeah.
And because I am in a basement, this is
Oh, how apt.
Oh, very good.
Scofflaw Basement
Very good.
IPA.
All right, lovely.
Did you hear anything from Crane Frank after he was
No.
on the show at all? No. Oh,
Now we probably never hear from
I guess
him
he
again.
didn't enjoy himself.
No, well, he did, and that's the embarrassing part.
Okay.
I don't think we want to hear about that.
My wife always said, I don't want you to enjoy yourself.
That's right. This is a duty,
Yes. All right, so
not something to
here's
be
to
enjoyed.
here's to everything APG. Here's to our wonderful community.
Micah is just sending me a nasty note
cheers.
saying that you didn't update the website with the
Oh,
YouTube link.
shoot. No wonder our sound engineer wasn't there. Huh. Really? I didn't update it? I thought I did.
What he's saying. Saying no video.
Well, let me see.
Yeah, that's right. It's very sultry over here at the moment. We could do with a good heavy rain storm to clear the atmosphere.
It says 529 live session. It looks like I did.
Micah forgot to hit refresh.
Micah, it's there.
Tanya thought I was drinking Crazy Hen. No, that's what we call you behind your back, Tanya.
Oh, there's that
Ouch.
crazy hen in New York.
Oh, no, that crazy hen, Tanya.
I'm joking. I'm joking. We love you, really.
Micah says the link's there, but it's not working. Anyway, I sent him the link don't worry about it, Jeff. I sent him the link
Cut and
What do
paste.
you mean the link is there, it's not working? The link, what link?
to YouTube. I don't know.
Just click on the screen that says watch on YouTube. Tanya got there.
We should be here in a moment, and you can berate him then, Jeff.
Okay, good. I look forward to it.
I'm sure you do.
Well, Micah needs an A rating, not a B rating.
As long as it's not an
Micah,
X rating.
At this time, he needs a D rating.
Oh, fair enough.
Let's see, YouTube page.
There he is complaining now, Jeff. There he is in the chat room.
What is he saying? I'm not looking at it.
I'm here now, but it wasn't working when I clicked on the join us on the YouTube channel link.
Well, it worked for everybody else, Micah. Must be you. Weren't holding your mouth right.
We made sure it doesn't work in Maine because
Right.
That's true. I forgot about that. I did a little,
We
put a little extra
geo-fenced
code.
you. We
Make
geo-fenced
make sure it
you
doesn't
all.
work
They all
in Maine.
complained too much.
That's it.
That's it.
He's on to us now. Okay. All right. I think we should start then. Here we go.
Ready.
Reporter. I always stumble on that one. An award-winning TV and radio reporter. What is the thing that what's his name? Anchorman.
Yes, Ron Burgundy.
Ron Burgundy. What is he? What's his little routine before he goes on there? He does. He says
Yes,
something.
no,
I need
he
to
does. Yeah, but I can't remember what
Anyway.
he does. Okay, let's go.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 529.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. With your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio 1A at former APG headquarters in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show is recorded on the 12th of July, 2022.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Get your ride and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, a FedEx 757 lands on the wrong runway. An American Airlines flight radios Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. We've got multiple failures. More news, your feedback, and today's plane tale, the Grade 2 listed centrifuge. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 529 is ready for pushback.
Thank you, Radio Roger. He is an award-winning TV and radio reporter, currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation, 1010 Wins in
New York City.
Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. In the morning, an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, a pilot at a major legacy airline based in Atlanta, GA, and joining me today from his studio,
in Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF. Something to do with the Australian Royal Air Force. Fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. This is Captain Nick.
Hello, Jeff. It's great to see that you are having the same problem that I often do. Yeah, and the Australian Royal Air Force will undoubtedly be writing to us soon.
I hope so, because I need somebody to write to me. And also joining us, a place to stand, a place to grow, from her studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, retired financier and aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master, and our producer-director, it's Liz Piper.
Here I am. Hi, everybody.
Yay. All right. And we'll have Dr. Steph joining us in progress. In the
See you later.
All right. Bye.
Stand by for news.
All right, let's start with this one. This is, when I read through this, I don't know what to think. This happened on the 23rd of May of this year. It's a preliminary report from published by the Bureau de the BEA. Let's see if I'm glad you thought that was funny. Let's see if I can actually find the BEA audio thing, and should have had that ready, and I don't. But I can't find it. Anyway, so the Bureau of something, in France that investigates these sort of things. This was a serious incident on the Airbus A320 registered 9 Hotel Echo Mike uniform, again on May 23rd, 2022, on approach to Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. And let's see, the history of the flight. The crew of the Airbus A320 performing scheduled flight 4311 took off on 23 May around 9:30 in the morning from Stockholm Arlanda Airport in Sweden, bound for Paris Charles de Gaulle. The captain was the pilot flying, the co-pilot was the pilot monitoring. Before descent, the flight crew prepared for an RNP approach with LNAV/VNAV minima to Charles de Gaulle's runway 27 right. The meteorological conditions indicated in the ATIS Quebec used by the flight crew when preparing the approach were the following. Transition level 70, wind 280 at 10 knots, visibility 10 kilometers, broken clouds at 1,500 feet, few cumulonimbus at 5,000, temperature 19 degrees, dew point 14, QNH 1001. And that last thing I said is very important. The crew stated, it's very important. The crew stated that during all the approach they remained in clouds without visual references. They experienced moderate turbulence and flew through heavy rain using the wipers at high speed. All right, then it goes on. First approach at 11:32:24 on approach to, and I guess that's in probably Zulu time, on approach to Charles de Gaulle, the intermediate controller. Well, intermittent might be true as well. Instructed the flight crew to descend to 6,000 feet with an incorrect QNH 1011 instead of 1001, valid at the time. Here's the quote. Red Nose 4311, descend 6,000 feet, 1011. The pilot monitoring read back with this QNH, 6,000 feet, 1011, 1011. Red Nose 4311. I guess maybe even right at that moment, the co-pilot may have been a little confused.
Yeah.
At 11:34, she instructed the crew, the controller, to descend to 5,000 feet, repeating the incorrect QNH. Red Nose 4311, descend 5,000 feet, 1011, cleared full RNP 27 right. The pilot monitoring read back the information, descend 5,000 feet, QNH 1011, cleared full RNP approach 27 right, Red Nose 4311. Is this like a Christmas airline? Like Rudolph Red Nose?
No, I'm guessing. What is it? A Norwegian outfit? They've got the front of the airplane is painted red.
Oh, why did I think that this was a Maltese airplane?
I don't know. Perhaps it is, but I'm just thinking of the Norwegian airline.
I see.
The low-cost carrier. I don't know if they're still around.
Maybe
AirHub Airlines Maltese operator.
Oh, whoa, hey,
Sorry.
Whoa!
What is that I
There's
hear?
a voice in my head.
I was going to wait, but then you were struggling, so I figured I'd help.
Well, we're always struggling here, Dr. Steph. Like right now, I'm struggling to get your little ditty here.
I was just going to say that and disappear until you could formally introduce me
No,
after
you're not.
this.
You got to stay now. You got to stay.
Darn it.
From
Maybe I should wait.
her lakeside studio in South. She's a doctor, skydiver, marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, and commercial multi-engine instrument rated backstabbing jumper dumper. We know her as Dr. Steph.
Hey guys, sorry for being a little bit tardy, but glad to see you both, and
Nice.
glad to be here. And I've got a beer in hand, so all is well. And yes,
All is well with the world. Great.
I think you really deserve that one, Steph.
I need it right now, but that's a different
Okay.
story entirely. And let's it'll help things smooth things out for me for the show. I'll just say.
Hey, you got here earlier and sooner than I thought you would, so I'm very pleased.
What is it? Under promise, over deliver.
Exactly.
I try.
Yeah, that's
Brilliant.
my motto.
I found in the smallest print
Yeah.
possible AirHub Airlines, a Maltese operator.
Isn't that
okay.
what I just said?
It
I
is.
think it was
Oh, okay.
very
But
similar.
you
to
said
what-
it way quick, and I can't understand way quick.
I'll tell your
Okay.
ears to hurry up.
Okay, so there you go. Oh, that's why I thought that, because right at the top there in that little data block, the operator is AirHub Airlines, a Maltese operator. But I guess they're, I'm sorry if you already said this, they are performing or the flight for Norwegian? Or is it just, so again, I go back to why is their call sign Red Nose?
I don't know.
Okay.
Perhaps that's
Well, then-
their call sign.
Then leave until you figure it out, and then you can come back. No, I'm just
Okay,
kidding.
bye.
Stay here. No. Just kidding. Okay. Where was I here?
AirHub's call sign is AirHub.
Oh. Yeah, they were probably flying for them in some arrangement. Anyway,
It's Norwegian, yeah.
I'm getting back to
so
the
I
story,
wasn't
Liz.
completely
Quit yelling
wrong.
at me.
Hey, these are the important things, Liz. These are the things that people want to know about.
Exactly. That's why they want. If they wanted like accurate, timely, concise information, then they'd listen to all the other aviation podcasts out there. This is what they're here for. This confusion. All right.
Whoop, whoop.
The ITM at 11:35:37. What's the ITM? In the morning, instructed an EasyJet flight crew to descend to 5,000 feet with the same incorrect QNH. Easy 75 Mike Alpha, direct Papa Golf 650, and descend 5,000 feet, 1011. Cleared RNP approach 27 right. The EasyJet crew read back, giving the correct QNH, namely 1001, without asking for confirmation of the QNH value. They responded direct to Papa Golf 650, descent 5,000, QNH 1001, Easy 75 Victor Alpha. This was not noticed by the controller. At 11:36, the controller instructed an Air France crew in French to descend to 5,000 feet with the correct QNH. I'm wondering if it's some kind of a language thing, perhaps.
Possibly.
I think mostly a dyslexic thing at the moment.
Could be, yeah. The Air France crew read back with the correct QNH 1001. Okay, so why is this important? Well, let's see. The flight crew stated that they conducted the altitude distance checks every mile during their approach, which led them to believe that they were on the descent profile. However, in such a situation where the altimeter setting is incorrect during an RNP approach with LNAV/VNAV minima, altitude distance checks do not detect that the flight path has deviated. Due to the incorrect QNH setting, the altitude value displayed on the aircraft instruments was around 280 feet above the real aircraft altitude. The flight crew were thus conducting an RNP approach with LNAV/VNAV minima around 280 feet below the published approach descent profile.
Oops.
That's not good.
Yeah. Can I make a point there, Jeff?
Yes, please.
In our old-fashioned approaches, when we were doing, say, a VOR or an NDB, and we were descending on a profile where we were checking our altitude against a distance from the beacon, that's where those height checks were valid and important, because it was basically checking your glide path to see whether you were above or below the correct height as you passed each mile on your approach. So we used to do that. On RMP approach, that is not as they say, it's not a valid way of confirming your altitude, because you're doing it against all the equipment in the aircraft that already knows your altitude. And if you set the incorrect altimeter setting, there will be no difference to the altitude on your chart to the altitude on the instruments, because you're not comparing it against an external source. You're comparing it against the information that's already there internally within the aircraft.
Very true. And we'll see why that is an important point here soon. Okay. First approach, there was a minimum safe altitude warning on final, a near controlled flight into terrain, go around at low height around 1 nautical mile before the runway without visual references and with runway approach lights off. Incorrect QNH read back by the crew during the go around, not noticed by the controller. The flight crew contacted the local north, the tower controller, who replied, "Bonjour, Red Nose 4311. You are number 1, wind 260, 12 knots, runway 27 right, cleared to land." The crew correctly read back the clearance. Shortly thereafter, at an indicated altitude of about 1,392 feet, with QNH 1011, the actual altitude 1,123 feet if they had the proper QNH set, 837 feet above the ground, corresponding to the stabilization altitude for the crew, 1,000 feet above the aerodrome. And at 3.1 nautical miles from the runway threshold, the aircraft was configured for landing, and at a speed of 130 knots indicated airspeed and a vertical speed of negative or 738 feet per minute down, which is all, sounds normal to all of us. Let's see. The ground minimum safe altitude warning was triggered. The aircraft at 11:41:32. The aircraft was at an indicated altitude of 891 feet, QNH 1011, or 617 feet actually, 1.53 nautical miles from the runway threshold. In other words, they're way lower than they should be. The controller stated that the visibility and ceiling at the airport were sufficient not to implement LVP, which is a lower minima type of and like a precision RNAV approach, but that locally in the east of the airport the visibility was poorer due to clouds and rainfall. The controllers in the tower could not see the aircraft on short final because of the bad weather. At 11:41:41, at 1.2 nautical miles from the runway threshold and with a vertical speed of 717 feet per minute down, the aircraft passed the indicated altitude of 802 on 1011, which is 537 actually, which corresponded to the decision altitude for the crew. The flight crew stated that arriving at that minima, they did not acquire visual references and consequently performed a go-around. At the same time, 9 seconds after the minimum safe altitude warning was triggered, the local north controller advised the crew, "Red Nose 4311, I just had a ground proximity alert. Are you okay? Do you see the runway?" The crew stated that they did not hear this radio communication. During the message from the controller, a second minimum safe altitude warning was triggered. Let's see. The airline policy is to add 50 feet to the published minima for RNP approach with LNAV, VNAV minima. That's exactly what we do at Acme. Therefore, according to the NavBlue chart used by the crew, their DA was 802 feet, which is 752 plus 50. At 11:41:47 and during the controller's message at an indicated altitude of 735 feet, QNH 1011, which was actually 461 feet at the correct QNH, 52 feet above the ground, and at 1 nautical mile from the runway threshold. Okay.
Wow. That's
Let me
not
say that again. 1 mile from the threshold, they're at 52 feet radio altitude. The autopilot was disengaged, and the captain pitched up. 3 seconds later, at an indicated altitude of 679 QNH 1011, 405 QNH 1001, the minimum radio altimeter height was recorded at 6 feet above the ground. The aircraft was 0.8 nautical miles from the runway threshold. At the same time, the captain moved the thrust levers forward into the toga detent. Okay, so it goes on. They did a second approach, and the second approach, they managed to break out. Yeah, you can go ahead and put the graphic up, Liz. Here's a view of the altitude, distance to threshold, where they should have been, and then their actual descent profile. And so the thing to take away here is that this seemingly not a big deal, kind of 1011 as opposed to 1001. I don't know how we are not talking about this as a major aircraft disaster. 6 feet above the ground. I mean, there must not have been any trees or anything right there.
I was thinking that even at like 52 feet, like some trees are pretty tall, you know?
Right.
Yep. They were damn lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, some guardian angels were working overtime with this flight crew and passengers on this flight. I don't know how they didn't crash the airplane at 6 feet above the ground. That's crazy. So Nick was talking about how doing a RNAV approach is different in the fact that there's no ground-based nav. Now I know there are certain RNP approaches that you use other ground-based devices to kind of give it even higher accuracy. They're not in too many places in the world, but using RNAV approaches, everything is based on satellite information, nothing ground-based, and as opposed to an instrument landing system, which is the old technology. It turns out that this old technology, to me, I always prefer doing even a localizer approach. If they're running RNAV approaches into an airport and the localizer signal is available, I always ask my first officer to request for that approach because I trust that electronic signal that's on the ground that's sending out this radio frequency that is interacting with my instrumentation, and I know exactly what my track is, and more importantly, when you're doing a precision approach with an instrument landing system, ILS, is you know exactly where that glide slope is because it doesn't matter what altimeter setting you put in your altimeter, it's going to show you. Now, you might be confused if you have the wrong
yeah, we go, wait a minute,
setting,
this is not where I'm supposed to be.
Right. That's where an altitude check against, say, the final approach fix will bring up an error. You'll go, hang on, I'm smack on the glide slope.
Right.
But the final approach fix is, say, 1,100 feet, and we're at 900 feet. That's a 200-foot error. Where's that come from? So you'd start questioning your aircraft instrumentation, one of which the things you'd check would be your QNH. So to make sure that you have got that figure set correctly for the altimeter.
Yeah. iHall Boxes says RMPs can be backed up by DME, which is distance measuring equipment. Also, vertical speed displays can confirm your descent path. Yeah, there are ways to kind of help mitigate this thing, but I just don't think there's anything better than now with an instrument landing system. And one of the reasons why we do what Captain Nick was just saying, the glide slope check. There's a glide slope check altitude that we always check to make sure that we are on a good glide slope. What do you mean by a good glide slope? Well, Miami Rick has talked about this in earlier episodes where it's possible because of the physical characteristics of these electronic beams that there's another beam that's like a little bit higher, and a
There's
little bit
false
lower.
glide slopes.
False glide slopes. So you have to
every
be
3 degrees or so.
yeah. So that's one of the reasons why we're checking when we're going over that, usually associated with a final approach fix. We look at the altitude depicted on the approach chart, and if the altimeters agree that that's the altitude, then we can be assured that we're on a good glide path or glide slope on the instrument landing system. But these RNAV approaches, you just don't have that assurance, the same level of assurance, unless you're using one of those. And I forgot what they call them. I think Newark has one of the systems where they have an RNAV RMP approach that actually uses some kind of a ground based system as well to kind of give it super high accuracy. In fact, maybe even better accuracy than an ILS system. But anyway, yeah, that is amazing. When I read about this, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that was almost a major aircraft accident.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I'd like to share just before. Nick, you're going to say something, but right. Let's see. I think it was last week on my last trip, my first leg. We were flying from Atlanta to Asheville, North Carolina, and it wasn't clear. It was there were some low ceilings, and we checked in, and our flight number was Acme. Thank you, IL. WAAS, WAAS, I think is the system that they can use in conjunction
Wide Area
with.
Augmentation System. Yeah.
WAAS. Anyway, going into Asheville, our flight was 445, so Acme 445. We checked in. We already knew by looking at our, listening to ATIS and looking at the information. We have digital information in the cockpit, what the weather was and what the altimeter setting was. We also knew that we were at 445. However, the controller read back, hello, Acme 454, descend maintain 3,000 or whatever, 6,000, altimeter 3041. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, the altimeter is supposed to be 3014. So this controller not only dyslexied
the
call sign, but also
the
altimeter setting, and did it like several times. And finally, my first officer said, just want to be sure that are you talking to Acme 445? And they said, yes, Acme 445. And then from that point on, the controller got our call sign right.
Did they still get the altimeter
They
setting
gave the
wrong?
wrong altimeter setting to us, or the initial check-in, and then to a Navy jet that was out there practicing a Poseidon, what do they call that, PS8 or P8?
P8.
Doing an approach, and they were doing an RNAV approach, and they gave them the wrong altimeter setting.
Well, that's not good.
And they read back the wrong altimeter setting.
Mm-hmm.
And we got on there and said, confirm altimeter 3014. And they said, yes, 3014. And I think in this case that the controller didn't even
know that they did it. Yeah.
They said any of those
and
things
that happens to all of us, right? Like we'll say
Yeah.
something and someone's like, did you mean to say that? And you're like, that's what I said. And you're like, if you listen back to it, that's not what you said. But
Right.
everyone has the potential to do that. That's just part of how our brains work. We mean to say one thing, and for some reason there's a disconnect between our brains and our mouths, and something else comes out, and your brain doesn't catch that there was an error there. So that's a common thing to happen. It's nice to have all kinds of backups and safeguards. Probably wouldn't work as well for the airline type folks, but actually on my watch, I probably can't show it, but I have a little METAR widget that is set to always display you have to double check it, right, and make sure that it's displaying the correct METAR. But especially helpful for the type of flying I do on the weekends. It pulls up the current weather. So it's got the winds, it's got the ceiling, and it's got the altimeter setting. So I always have that to kind of reference to It's just extra pieces of information in addition to what you can listen to on the radio and everything else. But, if you hear something that doesn't match, you can kind of go, wait, that wasn't what it was, 10 minutes ago. And just make sure.
Neil says, would they have had the gear down at 1 mile? That's definitely
Yes.
a stabilized flight requirement. Does the radio altimeter take that into account? Or did they risk hitting the ground with the gear if they were at 6 feet? I'm sure they had the gear down. And I think at some point, I don't think I read it out, but I think I did. They said that they were fully configured at the appropriate places. Nick, I interrupted you, so please.
Okay. I was just going to add something to what you said. And yes, when you're got the gear down sitting on the ground, the radio altimeter reads 0. So it does take account of the fact that it's like 15 feet or 10 feet in the air. So, I was going to mention the minimum safe altitude warning system that the air traffic controller had. So not only has the air traffic controller given the wrong QNH, she's also got this minimum safe altitude warning system, which advises her or him, her, I'm not certain, when the aircraft is likely to hit the ground during an approach. It works within a certain distance of the airfield, I think about 64 nautical miles, just to square around the airfield. And basically the radar knows the minimum height within each sort of half-mile square all around the airfield in that area. And if you're descending at a rate that it doesn't like, that you're about to collide with the ground, it will give a MSOL warning. And the controller didn't follow her procedures when she said, check your terrain, because the actual call is supposed to be your call sign, terrain alert, check your altitude immediately, QNH, blah, blah. And she should have said 1011, of course.
Yeah.
No.
1001.
Which one was it?
1001.
I don't know.
1001.
It's all a bunch of binary stuff. I don't know.
Close
if
enough.
she'd made that mistake again, of course, they would have glanced at it and gone, no, we're fine, and flown into the ground. But you're supposed to use, it's an alert because there's a potential major problem when an aircraft's too low. And that's because the aircraft's own proximity warning system, the EGPWS, which would normally alert you if you're getting too close to terrain with our very familiar whoop, whoop, pull up, or whatever warning you're going to get for the type of problem you're having. It has to be disabled on the final part of the approach because you're trying to land on the ground. And if you continually got warnings warning you that the ground's about to arrive, you'd be going, this is really upsetting because I'm supposed to land on this runway. So for the final part of the approach, it's disabled. So you weren't going to get any GPWS warnings. So this is the sort of fail safe. This
in your aircraft, if you're descending fast enough, though, like at a higher rate of descent, will it still be enabled?
Well, the higher the rate of descent, the earlier it comes on, I believe.
Yeah.
But certainly it came on for this controller. So she should have given, said, I've got a terrain alert. But that's not what she's supposed to say. She's supposed to give you quite a strict warning in a specific terminology, so you understand that you are in danger. A mistake has been made. Instead of which she sort of asked them a question. I've just got a terrain alert. You all right? And of course they're in cloud, so how are they supposed to check they're all right? That wasn't good either.
No, there were several mistakes made. Now, I think that when you read the preliminary report, you would think, oh, it was all the controller's fault. But I think you can't let the crew off the hook here.
No, they should have had that information from Vetus.
And they should have recognized that they were giving them the wrong setting, and they should have queried and made sure. Are you sure 1011 or is it 1001? I know they sound very similar. I can understand how the error was made, but yes. That's a huge mistake, 280 feet worth of
especially
altimeter.
280 feet low.
Yeah.
It wasn't 280 feet high.
Right. Yeah. What's the old saying? You know, if it's something, if it's something low, watch out below, or something like that. It's there. I shoot. I can't
The
remember
MD
the
of that
saying.
approach was around 800 feet, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
802.
Well, it was
Was the decision-
752
yeah.
plus 50, so it was 802. There was their derived decision altitude. If they're doing the approaches like we do at Acme, a constant angle. Basically, you
Not
create,
a dive and drive.
It's
but
yes, a
yeah.
non-precision approach, but you kind of make it into a controlled, sort of like a quasi-precision approach, but it's a much higher minimum descent altitude. Sure. So you add the 50 feet and kind of make it into a decision altitude, and then you just treat it like you're flying a precision approach. And that 50 feet added to the minimum descent altitude kind of gives you that margin to start performing the go-around. Yeah, in the old days, and maybe people are still doing it, I would assume, you do the old dive and drive. You know, you hit the final approach fix, time turn throttles, twist track talk. That's the old Air Force thing where you descend, and you descend very quickly down to minimum descent altitude, and then you just level off, and you're really low to the ground, and you're just cruising along waiting for see something outside that you need to see to continue the descent below the minimum descent altitude, or you go to the missed approach point and do your miss. But nowadays, I don't know how long ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe more, they came up with this constant angle kind of approach method where you kind of make it a quasi precision approach where you're doing a consistent glide path, but you don't have that precision guidance. Oh, thank you, iHaul boxes. From high to low, watch out below. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
So, yeah, they are very, very lucky, Liz said. Anything to? I hope we hear more about this because this is like
I don't know
pretty
that
big
we
deal.
will. I mean, this is kind of
Yeah.
all the information, though, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
we know exactly what happened, what transpired, why the mistakes that were made.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get the final report because this is only the preliminary. But the only other thing I is question mark in my head, and I'm not sure if this is a 320-ism as opposed to the aircraft I flew, the 330 and the 340. But if we had the autopilot in, we never took it out to fly a go-around. We just advanced the throttle straight to toga, and the autopilot flew the go-around. So I'm not quite sure why the crew took it out. I believe
for the
in the early
A320
days.
podcast.
Yeah, in the early days, you might have had to do that in the A320, but I don't know if it's still a thing. I wouldn't have thought so, but I'm not familiar with all the ins and outs of the 320. But that was a question in my head as well. Why on earth would you take the autopilot out to fly the go-around?
I think that in most airplanes these days, the policy would be to continue to leave it connected and just let it fly the automatic go-around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of scratched my head on that one as well. Normally we don't in this situation when you're IMC, instrument meteorological conditions. In other words, you're not in the clear, you're in the cloud. You don't disconnect until you like break out and you see the runway, and then you disconnect everything and you hand fly it to the runway, or depending on the policy, the airplane, your airline policy, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know why the pilot flying, the captain, did that. That was kind of odd.
Yeah. I notice in the summing up at the end, they say, whereas the MSOR system, when available, can be considered as one of the last barriers to avoid controlled flight into terrain. And whereas the MSOR phraseology was not used and the QNH information was not repeated. So the report obviously recognizes that was a major factor. And that they should have used the correct procedures when they got one of those warnings.
Exactly. That would have maybe fixed everything, from right off the bat. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Why are we getting a low altitude alert? Oh, wait a minute. We have the wrong QNH.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. A great one to learn from, and fantastic that we don't have to sift through the wreckage to find out what happened. So,
no kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. Okay. Well, that is all the news that we have regarding people making mistakes. Oh, wait. No, that's not right.
I was going to say, World News Week? No. Because people never make mistakes.
No. Oh, iHaul Boxes says, did the term vectored flight into terrain already exist? I don't know if that
I think
exists or not.
CFIT covers that still.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Controller flight into
Oh,
terrain.
very
That's
good,
what
yes.
CFIT.
Yeah.
All right. Second item B, incident FedEx Federal Express Boeing 757-200 freighter, registration 949 Fox Delta, performing flight 1170 from Fort Worth Alliance, Texas to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yeehaw! Hey, Larry, Geezer, with 2 crew, was cleared for a visual approach to and landing on runway 18 left. However, they lined up with runway 18 right and continued for a landing on runway 18 right. After the... What is that? Oh, interesting. I'm hearing something weird. Do you hear that, Liz? Oh, okay. I'm hearing...
I don't hear anything. Is it me?
I was hearing these like really boop, 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 like these tones that I've never heard before. It was like a... No, it wasn't a min safe altitude warning or the enhanced ground proximity warning. I don't know what it was. It's something I've never heard before, but it was very loud and clear. Okay, where was we? Okay, so the aircraft vacated the runway at the end, 18 right, which is not the right. Well, it was the right runway, not the correct runway. The crew informed Tower that they had landed on the wrong runway. Oh, they finally figured it out after they landed. On July 8th, 2022, the NTSB released their preliminary report and summarized the sequence of events. According to the flight crew, the incident flight was on the final leg of their third night of a 5-night trip and had scheduled departure time of 03:30 in the morning, Central Daylight Time. The captain was pilot flying. The first officer was pilot monitoring. ADSB data indicated that the incident aircraft took off from Fort Worth about 3:32. The flight crew reported that the departure, takeoff, and climb phases of the flight were normal. They climbed to flight level 310, briefed their expected approach to runway 18 left, and began their descent. So that's what they were expecting to do, land on, yeah?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
But they briefed for the correct runway, or the runway they were
Yes.
supposed to land on, and did not
Yes.
land on that runway.
Correct.
And interesting to note here before you continue reading, the sounds like the NTSB report puts in here 28 left multiple times. They actually wrote 28 left and 28 right further down in this article. So there's no 28 at Tulsa.
No, there's a 26 single, not left right, but just a regular 26. But
just
the main runways
coming up
are...
here, it's 28 is in there a couple times, and that's incorrect. It's 18.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'll try to read the correct
Does
runway
that mean
designation.
there has to be an accident report against
For the NTSB?
FAA?
Yes. Yes. We're going to need to do a report on this report. We need all the reports.
Yeah, preliminary, what would you call that?
Report.
Narrative report. Anyway. Okay, so they climbed to 310, briefed their expected approach to runway 18 left, then they began their descent. They obtained and reviewed Automatic Terminal Information Service, ATIS information, set frequencies for the ILS runway 18 left. The weather was instrument meteorological conditions during the descent until they passed 10,000 feet. At that point, they broke out of the clouds. They were on a 360-degree downwind vector, and the first officer had the airport beacon in sight. The controller then cleared the flight for the visual approach and landing on runway 18 left. The FO correctly read...
We're gonna
beacon in sight?
We're gonna have an interesting discussion here with Captain Nick. I can tell about visual approaches. So
okay,
I'm looking forward
Yeah,
to it.
throw that thing up there, Liz. Okay, coming up. Okay, on the chart.
Morse code light, is it? That's the
No, it's yes, and it's on, and it's like a star with a circle around it, and I can't. It's so small, I can't see where exactly it is, but it's usually somewhere pretty close to the tower, not always. And when you're flying at night and you're flying visual approaches, where is it? Liz is describing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's on the tower then. Central tower, just to the
yes, just
west
where my
of
mouse
the. Yeah. What? What'd you say, Nick?
Just where my mouse is. Can't you see it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, right
I
where
don't have
right where Nick's.
the detail doesn't come out that well on my screen for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm, like struggling to see.
I've got it.
I'm sorry.
I can see
should've-
all the I can see all the windsocks with lights.
I should have put
Go
the
into
graph.
with the control tower.
I should have.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, crew. I should have put that graphic in the actual notes so you guys could see it.
Just a little bit north of the airfield reference point.
Okay, so and the reason why that's important at night when you're flying a visual approach, of course, if you never fly visual approaches, then who cares? But we cowboys here in the U.S. We fly these visual approaches, and
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw, yeah. And when you see the beacon, it's nice to know exactly where on the airport, because there are airport layouts where the beacon is like way over on one side of the the airport, probably nowhere near the landing runway. So, it's kind of nice to know for orientation, SA, situational awareness. Okay. So where was I? The first officer had the airport beacon in sight. The controller then cleared the flight for and another reason why the airport beacon, identifying it, especially if you're using visual procedures, is that there is a certain color pattern for the airport beacon, and if it's a military airport, then it has a different sequence of colored lights, or if it's a water, what do they call those kind of airports?
A seaplane base.
Seaplane base has a different kind of a sequence and color, and so anyway, you're looking to make sure that you have identified the correct airport when you're flying at night. Anyway, the maximum distance that you can receive a visual approach clearance IHAL boxes is 35 nautical miles. Ding. Okay. The captain asked the FO to set an extended center line on the flight management system. Okay. I would assume that he did it to the correct runway. About 4:13 Central Daylight Time, the airplane landed on runway 18 right, exited at taxiway Lima 5 at the end of the runway, and notified the tower controller they had landed on the wrong runway. All frequencies were combined in the Tulsa Air Traffic Control Tower at the time of the event. The controller reported clearing the aircraft for approach and landing in one call and did not become aware of the wrong runway landing until the crew reported it. The facility reported the traffic volume was light at the time of the incident. The control tower was located in between the runway 18 left and 18 right, which were approximately a mile apart. What was the controller doing? I mean,
they presuming they're looking one direction or another, and the aircraft lands, either they're not going to see them, or they're going to see them on the wrong side.
Yeah, because it's not like these two runways are really close together. I've landed at Tulsa many, many times. They're quite far apart.
I mean, if he was facing away from 18 right, then he wouldn't see them at all. But if he would looking at runway 18 left, but he would have expected to see the aircraft there coming in on approach.
He was staring at the approach of 18.
Why can't I see them?
It should be any minute now. Should be able to see
I haven't got their.
It's clear below 10,000 feet, but geez,
I'll get the binoculars.
Right.
I mean, clearly, the blame goes to the crew for landing on the incorrect runway, but. I have to say,
controller doing?
There's a little bit of blame.
But, just a little question, like confirm you're landing 18.
Yeah, are you lined
left?
up with 18? Yeah, confirm you're lined up with 18 left.
Confirm expecting 18 left. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not what I'm showing. IHAL Boxes wants to know when the last time was you saw the airport from 35 nautical miles away at night. I can see Charlotte from 35 miles away at night. Easy.
I've seen airports 80 nautical miles away at night.
Depends on the area, depends on the terrain, depends on what you're familiar with too.
And we always joke around when I see an airport that far away at night that, I say, well, tell them we have the airport inside, and they go, no, don't do that, because 35 nautical miles is the maximum that we're allowed to be issued a visual approach. And again, a visual approach, when you're on an instrument flight plan, is an instrument procedure. Correct. It's not a VFR procedure.
Yeah. So why do we think? I mean, they set the frequencies for the ILS up, and the guy asked for a center line, which is presumably just an electronic line you can generate on their map display. Were they not looking at these? They just looked out the
Maybe
window.
they
and went,
were
"Oh,
having
that's a wild
dyslexic
line on
moments
that
as well,
one."
where everything they said was left, but everything they put in was right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's possible.
It's possible.
Yeah, that's possible. I don't know. I mean, these are one of these things where you kind of scratch your head and go, how in the world could that happen?
And I mean, if you're looking at the airport, most of the airport's to your left if you're lined up with the right side.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
And
probably a bunch of blank,
that right
like,
runway is
dark
a lot
nothing.
shorter.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point, because as you remember last week, we talked about a similar incident where
Pittsburgh.
the guy lined up, but those two runways were quite close.
exactly
he lined
same.
up on the run one way.
They're very long.
Yeah, and the
Different.
controller said he didn't want to send them round because they were on short files, and he was a bit worried that they might crash because I don't know why. He just said, oh, they were too close to the runway, so I didn't send them around. But those runways were a similar distance. Here we got a runway of 6,000 feet against 10,000 feet.
Yep.
That's a considerable distance in your stopping. Now, this is not a It's a 757. It's not a small airplane. It's not a 737. So, but 6,000 feet is fine. But the end of the runway would presumably have come up unexpectedly quick for them. And certainly if they had thought, oh, we'll just roll to the end here and not put the brakes on very hard or something, they would have had a
We
really
got 10,000
nasty
feet,
shock
no
if they'd
problem.
run off the
Ooh,
end.
boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're seeing the lights change colors way before you were thinking they should. You go, wait a minute.
Someone's made a mistake with the light pattern. Look,
There's
they're
amber.
turning red and white.
Yeah, why is it that? Why? Yeah, you're right. Somebody put the
why
wrong
is
bulbs
that?
in.
Yeah. What's wrong with this airport? Yeah, so,
man.
a lot of things of interest with this one.
It could be Larry's fault, Liz. You're correct. I think he is in charge of the airport lighting at
Are
Tulsa.
there any cowboys in Tulsa?
All
there are a
cowboys.
lot of, yes.
Have you ever been to Oklahoma?
90%.
Is Larry a cowboy?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Larry is a very sophisticated gentleman cowboy.
Ah, okay. All right. So he has a chromium plated 6-gun and a really nice Stetson.
Exactly.
Good.
And
Good for you, Larry.
And a big giant Ford 350 Super Duty truck on steroid. No, that's not him. He doesn't have one. He doesn't have that. Anyway, yeah. Wow. I don't know. I'm hoping. Well, we're never going to know. There is a preliminary report, so maybe we will learn more when the final report comes out. Yes, is this confirmation bias according to Neil? They
certainly.
expected to see one runway. Yeah, I think that's a major player in this. They see that. Oh, that's the runway, and just like the Dream lifter that landed at Colonel Jabara Airport, 9 miles short of McConnell Air Force Base. I mean, thinking. What,
Well, actually,
did you
I was
not look at
thinking
your
about
nav
that.
display?
Yeah. When we started reading this, I was thinking about that. I was like, well, at least they landed at the correct airport, even if it was the wrong runway.
I'll tell you, after, doing the show and reading about all these incidents and talking about all these incidents at night, visual conditions and that kind of thing, I've adopted the policy that when I fly at night, which is not that often anymore, even though if it's clear in a million, and I've been to the airport several times, I'll say, request vectors for the ILS approach because I just think it's safer and that will keep us from screwing it up and landing in the wrong place.
You're starting to sound like me, Jeff. Every time I flew to America, they say, take the visual for blah, blah, blah. And I say to the FO, no, tell him I want an ILS.
Now, and I'm just talking about at night. During the day, especially to an airport that I've been to many, many times and I'm comfortable with, I don't have a problem with it. But it's at night or high terrain, I'll say, even if it's clear in a million, nope, I want vectors for the instrument landing system approach because I just, want to make sure that I get everybody safely on the ground.
Absolutely.
Including me. All
Yep.
right. All right. You guys ready to move on to the next one? Those first two are doozies.
Please.
Here's another doozy, and I'm glad that we have an Airbus pilot with us. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he can.
Not anymore.
Well,
You're the closest thing we've got.
Yeah.
So you're in charge of this one. Yeah.
Okay. Oops. Shoot. I thought I'd
Oh,
left
God,
enough
I
of
don't
that
understand
to
either,
read.
that.
Okay. An American airline. This is from what is it called?
Flight radar or something?
Hang on. It's going to show the little thing here when
Real
I
ATC?
reconstruction of flights. No, what does it say? Can you read that? You can see ATC.
You can see ATC.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Although I can't see it very well. Here we go. Okay, this occurred on the 22nd of June, so not too long ago, at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport at 9:53 at night, local time, an American Airlines Airbus A321neo. By the way, I looked for this on Aviation Herald. It was not there. A321neo, registration, so it's a new airplane, 429 Alpha November, performing flight 1336 from Dallas-Fort Worth International to Orlando. After departure, declared a mayday, reported multiple failures, stuck flaps, airspeed indicator failure, and requested return to Dallas-Fort Worth International. Let's listen to the air traffic control recordings.
And departure, American 1338. With you at 3,400. Looks like we're going to come back to the field.
I think it's 1336, isn't it?
American, that's American 1336.
Yeah.
Okay. We're just going to confirm this now.
Yeah, okay.
Mayday,
Whatever.
Declaring emergency, come back to the field.
American 36, Roger, maintain, if you can, maintain 4,000. Can you maintain 4,000?
4,000, American 1336.
American 1336, turn left heading 050 back to the airport.
Left turn 050, vector clear for American 1336.
36, what are your intentions?
Good question.
American 1336, understand you need to land at DFW. Do you want 17 center, 17 right? Do you have a preference?
Stand by.
Yeah, very busy. Trying to control the airplane.
Yeah, 17 center will work fine for American 1336.
American 1336, Roger, heading 040, expect only 17 center.
040, expect 17 center, American 1336.
American 1336, when you have a chance, with the nature of emergency, please, number of people on board, and you want 177, after that part.
Yeah, we got 197 passengers on board, and got multiple failures. We got flaps that are locked, and we got airspeed indicators not working.
American 1336, Roger, turn left heading 010.
Turn 010, American 1336.
American 1336, heading 340.
Left turn 340, American 1336.
American 1336, don't have any problem with the staying airborne right now or anything like that, right? American 1336, I know it's a lot. When you're able, fuel remaining, please.
They're kind of busy.
We got 3 hours of fuel remaining, American 1336.
We're going to Orlando. A lot of fuel.
American 1336, traffic 12 o'clock, 12 miles, off direction of citation, 3700 descending to 2000. I can be able to maintain 4000 or do you need lower?
I don't think they're quite at 4,000 feet yet.
We can maintain 4,000, American 1336.
American 1336, Roger. As soon as we get you past that aircraft, we'll get you lower. It's 12 o'clock and 13 miles off direction, 33 for 2.
Yeah, we're going to need some delay vectors to get this under control. Everything checklist run, American 1336.
American 1336, Roger. In that case, turn right heading 355.
We're heading 355, American 1336.
So we have the...
American 1336, that traffic is 12 o'clock and 2 miles, 1800 indicated. Additional traffic at 2 o'clock and 4 miles, 3000 descending to 2.
All right, looking at the track, 1336.
They're kind of on a left downwind right now to the east of the
American
DFW.
1336, citation passing below you.
Roger.
So they're busy.
American 1336, one off your right side, turning behind you now if you're having a hard time with the altitude, 2700 descending.
Yeah, right now they're showing 3,700.
1336, we got clear sky in front of you now. No more traffic is going to be in your way. Just let me know when you're ready for a base for 17 center.
Roger. We'll let you know, American 1336.
Yeah, so they're about 300 feet below the altitude they were instructed to fly, but that might be because...
1336 for our emergency frequency, change to mine 135.7, 35.7.
35.7, American 1335, 1336.
Okay, so 35.7 wasn't recorded by live ATC, so we don't have that information, but looking at the depiction on the video, it looks like they went out there and did a right 360 and got back.
1336, runway 17 center for the land, wind 13010.
Okay, for some reason.
American 1336, for the land, runway 17 center, wind 13010.
I think live ATC had...
And for control, next aircraft land is the emergency Airbus 321. He is on a 18 mile per hour.
Was recording this frequency, and probably he was transmitting on both 35.7 and the normal tower frequency.
1336, you can exit there or just stay on the runway or whatever you need to do.
Okay, they landed safely. And
they're right behind you. They'll check you out as soon as you stop.
They took
and also,
the high speed.
Command is on frequency when you need to talk to them.
Okay, so we didn't hear any of that conversation at all, but they vacated the runway, stopped for inspection. A few minutes later, they continued to taxi to the gate. That's all. If you like this, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Absolutely. By all means, like and subscribe to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, it was not our video. So, reconstruction, it's nice if you watch the video or click on the video in the show notes. You can see the simulated path of the flight. And not really sure exactly what happened there. Obviously, something to do with the flaps stuck. Maybe when they were retracting and they got stuck and they shut down in that position, and then something also about one of the altitude
or
airspeed indicator,
or something.
Yeah, some kind of an air data system problem, which is a big deal. The flaps, not so much a big deal, especially if they're stuck out. That's one of the better problems to have. If they're stuck retracted, that's more of a deal. But if they're already out, you just go back and land where you started from, which is what they did. The air data system issue, that's a bigger deal. But as long as only one of them is acting up and you have a good one, and you can confirm which one is the good one, that's the hard part. And once you have made sure that you have identified the good and bad, then you can use that and proceed with your flight. And that sounds like what they did. What do you think, Nick?
I think you're spot on. I mean, that's a very good explanation. The flaps would come up as flaps locked for a multitude of reasons, so I have no idea which one caused it. It can be the wingtip brakes coming on, and out of interest, that happens every 10 days. So if you don't service the flaps and reset the clock, those brakes are going to come on at a certain time.
What?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this.
Say that again. What are you saying?
You've got to service.
Who designed this system? That sounds problematic. You got
the wingtip brake system. What the hell?
Yeah, the flaps are locked by brakes that come on and go clank. You're not going to move again.
Those brakes.
Okay, those brakes.
Okay.
And they're timed on a clock. And if you don't service the flaps every 10 days, those brakes are going to come on regardless. And they've happened more than once that the engineers have forgotten to service and reset the clock.
That seems awfully frequent, no?
Apparently not, no. I mean, those engineers crawl over those airplanes an awful lot. So it might be awfully frequent for a twotter, but not for a big, handsome, lovely Airbus that needs lots of attention to keep it flying nicely. Anyway, that would be one reason the wingtip brakes come on. Of course, flat symmetry will also bring the flat brakes on, wingtip brakes on, to stop the asymmetry from progressing. Because obviously, if you get one set of flaps come up and the other one doesn't, you tend to turn upside down. So those, as soon as there's a symmetry detected, those brakes come on. And hydraulic failures can do it. Plus, also the slap flap control computer failures will bring on them. But like you say, if you've got them out and they won't retract, all you've really got to worry about is controlling your speed. And it's very simple. You grab the selected speed knob and crank it back to a speed that keeps you from overspeeding the flaps, because otherwise you'll damage them if you continue to accelerate with them stuck in position. And then it's a matter of going through the checklist. Now, that is not the easiest checklist in the world to perform, the flaps locked checklist. And it has, it's something we practice regularly in the simulator so that we can keep abreast of it and just not fall into any traps, because there are two different ways of the computers on board the aircraft working the speed. They can work the speeds out for the actual flap position or the flap handle position. And of course, you may not have those two may not agree anymore, because if your flaps have locked, you might have tried to select them up, so you'll have, say, moved the lever to 1. The flaps are stuck at 2. So, you're going to get a disagree. So you'd have to go through manual calculations now of your approach speeds and that sort of thing. It just takes a little time, which is probably why the crew were a little distracted. Because they're trying to do these procedures and make calculations and flip through graphs and etc. All the while they're just doing one circuit to land. So they were probably pretty busy on the flight deck. The airspeed indicator failure, I don't know why that is happened at the same time. And we're also talking multiple failures, so there may be something else that's happened in the background that we're not aware of. But I would say the crew had their hands full. They sounded very calm and collected on the radio, which I loved.
They did.
Really good. Is a Mayday appropriate? Well, for me, a Mayday is a very serious, I'm possibly going to lose this aeroplane. And they may have thought that initially because it was very confusing. But I would normally say that's you would need a call of pan rather than Mayday. But you can always downgrade a Mayday. Mayday gets everyone's attention. Should do anyway. And once you've decided that, actually this is controllable, if you've got the spare capacity, it can be worth downgrading of a pan, although most air traffickers don't really care. You're an aircraft with an emergency. I'm going to give you priority, which is fine. That's about it. If I was more current, I'd be able to give you more gen, but I think that covers most of it.
Yeah, but so here in the US of A, cowboy land, we are used to like declaring an emergency, and that's or not. And in the Air Force, we had like precautionary, that is kind of like a pan. But in the civilian world over here, I don't think a lot of people ever declare precautionaries. They just declare
pans, even or
even
that would
pans.
Be very odd to hear on the radio here. Everyone knows what it means, but people are like, huh?
Yeah.
Do you have a problem or not?
I'm just surprised that he said Mayday, Mayday, Mayday.
I'm too, actually.
I think it's because he's been listening to our show.
I'm glad that he did. Perhaps the message is getting through.
Because it could be Captain White, Liz. You're right.
That's the ICAO terminology for emergencies.
I know. We know everybody here knows it. It just
you know what? Honestly, I've kind of started to incorporate that into my head. So when I have a situation, even the last time I was in the sim, I said Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. We're declaring an emergency. Blah blah. Sure. So it's finally finally kind of sinking into my head a little bit, in my cowboy head. Let's see. iHall Boxes said must have been the Windows 11 update that went wrong. It could be. I don't know.
Airbus use Windows 11? Is Mac, not Windows.
Really?
Boeing are Windows, but Airbus.
That makes sense. It really does, actually.
Boeing's like MS-DOS.
basic.
But seriously, folks, he covered, just as you mentioned, Jeff, he covered both bases. So he said, Mayday, 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 I'm declaring an emergency.
Yeah.
You shouldn't need to say that second bit, except that, of course, there may be air traffickers out there who aren't familiar with what the Mayday means. So he's covered both bases, which I think is quite clever.
Yeah. So Nev, hey, Nev. I'm glad
late
he's not.
where
He doesn't
Nev
see all
is.
the cables in my particular setup here. He'd
Oh,
be
it's
very
like cable
disappointed in me.
chaos here too.
How quickly can the crew get task saturated in this kind of scenario? Very quickly.
Yeah, particularly if you're dealing with all the additional calls that air traffic want out of you, because they'll want a number of passengers, they want fuel remaining,
Fuel on
they'll
board,
want- They want which runway do you want?
And
if you haven't worked
when you get a
out
chance,
which
pick up the local ATIS if you don't mind.
Nature of the emergency, you know.
Yeah, we're not busy. We're trying to keep the
So
airplane from
in the
crashing.
sim, you tend not to get all those additional annoyance calls, but in
Right.
real life, you've got other aircraft on the frequency, the air traffic
And
are
they're-
going, and meanwhile, you too are actually really busy, both flying the airplane and controlling it in a difficult situation, and going through. You've probably got your four fingers stuck in various different parts of the QRH, and you've got your electronic flight just checking the FCOMs to make sure you haven't missed anything. Yeah, it's not easy.
And it's like, oh, in traffic at your 12 o'clock, and also
Yeah,
your
let's
3
throw in some
o'clock
traffic.
at like not,
Yeah.
too dissimilar altitudes. So
I would say, hey, would you do me a favor? Move everybody out of my
Yeah.
way, please.
Why you can tell them to
Exactly.
go
Trying to keep
somewhere
this
else? Why are
airplane
you trying
from
to tell me to
crashing.
look out for them? You move there.
Yeah, that's what a Mayday is supposed to be. I mean, in the old days, they used to put you on a separate frequency, so you had no one else to talk to except your controller, who was zeroed in on your.
Well, they actually did do that at some
Yeah.
point here. That's why we didn't get that.
Took them
bit
a
of-
second to do it, but they did.
I wish
My
they
whole
hadn't done
Boxes
it.
makes a good point. He said, you tend to work split duty here when there's emergency. So one of you flies the aircraft and the other runs the drills. And although, generally speaking, the one who's running the drills should keep the pilot flying, the one who's handling the airplane, abreast of where you are in the checklist. If they're long and complicated, there will be long periods where you're working through various various button presses and resets and things, and you may not be able to, and he may not have the capacity to hear what you're telling him at times, because he's working the radio as well as flying the airplane, as well as navigating and deciding how much time you're going to need before you get on the runway and which runway to land on all those difficult questions. So yes, you do split, and it's very important that when you come back together, you're both on the same page. So you need to have a little mini brief as to where you've got in the emergency drills and where you've got in the flying of the aircraft and setting up of the approach. And someone has to do that. And usually the pilot flying is a bit busy. He can't be heads down if he's working, flying the airplane manually, particularly at the same time. So this is why you've got to get in the simulator and do this regularly. And this is why when we lost the facility of having a third man on the flight deck, the flight engineer, so many pilots went, this is ridiculous. We needed that third body. You may not need him very often. He may not be essential very often, but the sort of situation you need him is when you've got a multiple failure problem, and he can be a vital asset, but we don't have him anymore. So there's no point crying over spilt milk, I guess.
And while sometimes it's kind of a hassle to have somebody on your jump seat in a situation like this, it's nice because then they can become that third crew member and they can start doing communications for you and that kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. Use your assets.
Use all your resources, and assets.
That's why when we had a heavy crew, we generally always have the heavy crew on board or into the flight deck for landing, even if they might have run out of duty time. Because if you do have a problem and you've got 4 guys to help you work the problem, you're much more likely to come to a good result.
I don't know. I'm going to take umbrage to that. I'm kind of heavy. I need to lose some weight.
Well, you should go on the same diet as me, Jeff, and then you won't be so heavy.
How's that working out, by the way?
Well, I've still got the diarrhea, but apart from that, I'm fine. Thank you.
I think if you take some go around Acillin. then the stomach cramps will prevent you from eating too.
No, the go around the ceiling, I think, will make it worse, Steph.
Good point, actually.
My bad.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I wasn't really looking for that detail, Nick, but thank you. I meant the weight loss part of it, not the
Well,
diet.
when you're emptying everything out of your bottom twice a day, you lose a lot of weight. Yes, very good.
All right.
So perhaps we ought to wait for getting to know you before I talk about that.
I think we just got to know you, and we'll skip you in that section.
We don't like it, Liz says.
No.
We got to know you, and we just don't like it. Okay, we're going. Final report: accident. iAero 737-800 registration 820 TJ performing flight 3518 from Victorville, California to San Diego. We talked about this shortly after it happened in May of 2020. With 88 passengers, 7 crew, departed Victorville's runway 17, completed the seemingly uneventful flight with a safe landing on San Diego's runway 27 about 41 minutes after departure. Following landing, it was discovered parts had come off the vertical tail's leading edge as well as left side in flight. The final report has now been issued July 8th, 2022. Improper installation of dorsal fin attach bolts, which caused the dorsal fin to separate during flight, substantially damaging the left horizontal stabilizer. So the bolt installed in position on the right side of the dorsal fin was not the correct part number, and the bolt was longer than required. The photographs also showed remnants of old sealant at each of the bolt locations, but no evidence that sealant was applied during maintenance of the dorsal fin in February 2019, less than 3 months before the accident. The 7 missing bolts for the dorsal fin structure became loose, had fractured, or were not properly installed. And so there you go. Bad maintenance procedures apparently in QA. Before they released this airplane as airworthy.
Yep.
All right. That's interesting. That's not the manufacturer. That's work that was done in routine maintenance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. So.
Or maintenance procedures.
You know, it's a not one of the major airlines in the U.S., so they're probably trying to save money wherever they can. They may have used maintenance, that maintainers that weren't, at the top of the list. I don't know. I don't want to cast aspersions or anything, but apparently their QA wasn't very good. So.
I did that last week, and I was going to apologize. You don't cast dispersions; you cast aspersions.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. Cast aspersions.
I'm sorry.
Sounded like I said dispersions.
We have a family joke
aspersions.
where we changed difficult words and turned them into something else. And I
do that all
fell
the time.
into that trap last week.
Yeah.
Casting dispersions. That was my fault.
Yeah, well, no problem. It was my displeasure, taking that. All right, let's see. I need to get something queued up, a video file.
This was a remnant of the captain that got sucked off.
Wait,
sucked
what?
out of the sucked out of the aeroplane.
That's a different
Do you
thing.
remember that?
Yeah, well, those are two
captain
different.
They got sucked out of the wind when the windshield blew off because they put the wrong bolts on.
Oh yeah.
So
yes.
This is
that was definitely an aircraft issue.
Yeah.
Maintenance issue.
Yeah, exactly. So
The
if
other one was
that engineer had done his homework and gone, oh, that's an interesting accident, I'll read up about that, and then perhaps he would have double checked before he put the wrong bolts in.
Awkward. Yes, Nev. Very awkward. Okay, now, moving on. We have talked about this concept on the show before in the past, circular runways. Mm-hmm. And apparently we have some video of somebody trying out.
We have one in North Carolina.
They're doing some trials in North Carolina. Here we go. Let's watch this. watching from the view of the left strut of a high-wing Cessna, I'm guessing.
Looks like a 172 or 182.
172, 182, something like that. They're touching down on not a runway. It's a road, a curving to the right road in a very beautiful part of the country. They miss several cars, and look at all those pieces from Steph's Jeep in the middle lane there that they're avoiding very well. And
great! There's a taxiway. Quick,
we
take
can turn off.
Oh yeah, there's a taxiway.
We can pull off here. That's fine.
Side. Oh, but he's stopping because there's a stop sign.
Oh, very good. You can recognize the stop sign from the back. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Well, stop. Actually stop.
When I first looked at this, I'm thinking, why didn't they just go on that little road? And I'm thinking, no, they're thinking I'm going to be blocking traffic if I do that, so I'm going to put it right here. Very considerate.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so it looks like the engine was running, Steph.
Yeah,
but I guess maybe it wasn't providing power.
Exactly. You can have engine power that's insufficient to maintain altitude, so I don't know exactly what the nature of their issue was here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was going to say something else about that, and I just lost my thought.
It was going to be so profound.
It was going to be excellent. I don't remember.
Yes.
But yeah, no, you can have an issue that isn't causing complete loss of power. Oh, I know what I was going to say about it. So the part of North Carolina that this happened in is in the western part of the state where the terrain is actually quite high in a lot of places. So this is Swain County, North Carolina, which I believe is like Bryson City and west of like Waynesville and Cherokee area.
Okay, so like in the Smoky Mountains.
Making that up. There's not really a place called Waynesville.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff's been there.
Is that near Wayne's World?
Could be.
It might be.
Wayne is a big guy there, and they named a village for him, Waynesville.
Yeah, west of Asheville, basically, like before you get to Tennessee, if you're unfamiliar with
kind of up in the
towns
area, not too far from where I was living.
Exactly.
In the North Georgia mountains.
Exactly, and I think I looked at this one when this happened the other week, and I think the minimum safe altitude out there is like 6,600 feet or something. So it's not low, but not high, but not like sea level. So if you have some sort of loss of power reduction, it may be insufficient to maintain a safe altitude to where you can get back to the place where the airport where you can land safely, or the place where you started. So.
Yeah, I thought he did a really nice job because it was a narrow track he had to follow to stay, between all the vehicles, and I thought he did a great job. And I don't know how he got round the corner. That aircraft has really good cornering.
Well, I mean, I'm telling you, the advocates for the whole circular runway thing are going to look at this video and go, see, I told you it can be done.
Yeah, but and what's more, their circular runway's got a banked track, so make it
I know, this one didn't
easier.
even have a banked road to land on. It was a flat one.
Go.
Yeah, Waynesville, according to Neil Landworm, is next to Batman Town.
Bat Cave is also in western North Carolina, just outside of Asheville.
Oh.
What,
for real? You're not making that up?
No, I'm. That is an actual town.
The Bat Cave is in
Bat Cave.
I thought it was somewhere out in California, but wow. Okay.
Is that where they made the bat bomb?
Right. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that was fun. I enjoyed that, and good job, as you said. Good job. So the next one is an interesting one as well. This is from Paddle Your Own Canoe, of course.
Yes.
An Indian airline was forced to delay hundreds of flights on Saturday, as insiders claim the reason behind the disruption was because the cabin crew pulled sickies so that they could attend a massive recruitment event being held by a rival airline. Low-cost Indian airline Indigo operated just 45% of its domestic flights on time on Saturday after the alleged mass sick-out wreaked havoc with the carrier schedule. Air India. The cabin crew are believed to have attended a recruitment... No, I'm sorry, Indigo, and then they attended the recruitment event held by Air India, which is in the middle of a massive hiring blitz. India's Directorate of Civil Aviation has said it will open an investigation to get to the bottom of the allegations.
Yes.
Yeah, how would you, Steph, as HR of the APG conglomerate, handle this situation?
Well, this is a tricky one, right? Because obviously you don't want your cabin crew to leave for greener pastures. So I'd say double down and offer them some incentives so they don't call out sick again and mass to go to your rival carrier.
Yeah.
Got to keep the good people around. Now, if these are employees that you don't care for very much, then maybe just fire them.
Let them go. Fire them. Yeah. Without pay.
Mm-hmm.
I must admit, I'd be nice to see Air India get a injection of funds from Tata, which are an enormous conglomerate, Tata Group. I didn't know much about them till I had a friend of mine who became one of their senior man management executives, and they are just vast. So if Air India's going to get some funds from them, they're probably going to have plenty to play with. Indeed, it looks like they're going to buy somewhere in the region of 300 new aircraft. And I'm going, wow. So massive order of single aisle aircraft, and they are, of course, in talks with both Airbus and Boeing.
So Air India would be considered the major / international flag carrier, probably pay better benefits, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, they're closer to a traditional, legacy airline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a state carrier. I mean, they are independent now, but yeah.
Okay. So you could see the aircrew's desire to perhaps seek greener passages or pastures. All right. Well,
yeah, you want to watch out for those green passages.
I know. Well, the green ones are better than the others. Yeah, the brown ones.
Let's
okay.
not go there.
All right. Well, too late. Let's move on to this. Help save us. Yes. Getting to know us. The time of the show where we recover from things that we say that we regret. And it's our time to kind of get to know what's been happening with the crew members between shows. And let's see, ladies first. Let's start with Stephanie.
Sure. Well, I missed you guys the last episode.
Yeah, we missed you.
And I haven't listened to it, so I have no idea what was discussed.
We didn't say anything derogatory about you at all, so I wouldn't listen if I were you.
Excellent.
But I didn't. He did.
I see how it is. Well, as HR, I think I'm obligated to listen, so I will probably listen at some point. And I see a lot of
you know me, I wouldn't say anything
happening here.
Nice.
No, it's all good. It's all good. But I missed you guys. I'm sorry. It just got... life got a little crazy last week. It's been really busy on all fronts, and it's still busy, but really happy to see you guys because it's nice to be here. Did some flying this past weekend. You might recall last year I talked about flying our Twin Otter quite a bit, and had done a lot of work to get checked out on that aircraft, and then was really close to that point and kind of had the sign off and blessing from our chief pilot and instructor. And I didn't have the insurance requirements yet for the hours minimum. So even though I was cleared to sit in the left seat, someone had to fly with me if I was going to fly that aircraft for a little while. And then because she's an older aircraft and has maintenance needs and things like that, was away for a while. Main landing gear overhaul, hot section, and one of the inspection.
Main landing gear overhaul. That sounds suspicious.
No, it's a time thing. But basically, it equates to new main landing gear, and it's just a times out. So, or completely overhauled, or you send off the old gear, they get overhauled, you get new gear. I don't know. But anyway, the airplane was back, and I now have the hours that the insurance was looking for. So I finally got to solo the Twin Otter this past weekend.
I saw the picture. Great,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
All on your Todd. Just you and about 50 parachutists in the back.
Just me and 22 parachutists.
Yeah,
Better late than never.
It was good.
Thank you.
Jeff found the applause button.
Oh,
Sorry.
and so just working backwards on the calendar, and I saw iHaul Box's comment here. I guess you guys probably talked about this, but I was in Atlanta the weekend before that. Well, specifically on Monday. I saw Captain Jeff. We had lunch after I ran the Peachtree Road race, which was a very good race for me. I wasn't sure what to expect that day because I hadn't done a lot of training specific to that race, but I ran a personal best on that course on a very hot and humid day, so that was also noteworthy and fun.
Very nice.
And
not as exciting as your
Not as
flying.
exciting as flying the Twin Otter. No,
No.
definitely not.
But good. Well done.
Yes. And to see, ended up seeing Dispatcher Mike as well for a little while at his fine house down
And
there
there
with
were
his family.
fireworks there.
And there were
She
some
got together
fireworks.
with
We
Mike.
blew some stuff up because it was the 4th of July, and that's what
Yeah.
us cowboys do when we're feeling patriotic. So
No fireworks between Steph and I, but between
No.
Steph and Mike, there were. That's all I can say.
Cool.
I mean, his wife was
little
there,
disappointed,
to be
but,
fair.
Yeah.
We did share some tacos and things, though, some fine Mexican food.
Yeah, a traditional Independence
July
Day
4th.
meal.
4th of July, American holiday food. Let's
Yeah.
eat Mexican food.
Hey, a lot of the traditional places are closed on July 4th, so we got to go to the foreigners.
They're
for
not buying that
sustenance.
excuse stuff.
I know. That's what best I
Yeah.
can do. So the weekend before that, flew a bunch on Saturday, Sunday, went to Atlanta, ran, saw Jeff, saw Dispatcher Mike, had a really busy week at work, flew the Otter. Sunday was really rainy. Been getting some stuff done around the house, trying to keep my head above water, treading water.
Did you get any sleep at all in that whole time frame?
Sleep? What?
Yeah.
What is sleep?
Yeah, we didn't think so.
I don't know what that is, but I look forward to experiencing it someday. I hear it's nice.
Yes, it is.
No, I for anyone who's truly concerned, I do sleep quite a bit. I enjoy sleep, and I sleep well. So
That's
it's
very
important.
good to know.
What else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else. This upcoming weekend, there won't be any flying for me. My neighbors are having a big shindig for their twice now postponed 20th wedding anniversary, so I'll be attending that all weekend with some of my
Nice.
friends in town. And yeah, it should be a
You're
nice
gonna be
kind of
like
relaxing.
right
weekend.
there at the little cove, or are you going to be going somewhere else?
Different part of the lake because they have a
Okay.
lot of people they've invited, so they've expanded to a larger venue for the weekend,
Oh, nice.
but on the same lake,
Mhm.
just the other side.
It's a beautiful lake.
Yes, it should be a very nice weekend. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to relaxing a little bit, and relaxing is difficult to do when there's a lot of projects around to be worked on and completed. But I'm going to try to take a step back and let it go.
Let it go. Yep. All right. Thank you, Steph. Great to have you back with us. We missed you last week. Captain Nick, how's the bowling going?
Well, no real changes. I'm doing this big final match on the county unbadged at the end of the month, so I've got a little while to prepare for that. Entered a competition where we could have won £400, which would have been nice. But sadly, our team, we didn't quite make the final, only by like 1 point. But you had to play a round robin of matches, and if you won every single one, you went through to the final. And we missed out on one match, so damn. It was a stinky hot sunny day because we were in the middle of a bit of a heat wave here, which you guys giggle at, I know, because everything's hot and sticky where you live. Yeah, we're and the temperature is going to continue to rise. Next week it'll be above, it'll be 33, 34 degrees centigrade. So it's going to be warm. And when you're outdoor in the sunshine, you do get a bit hot and a bit sunburned. So I've got red nose.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Like that
There you
flight that set the wrong altimeter setting.
Probably. Anyway, that's the bowls. What else has been going on? Not a great deal. Just ticking over and getting stuff done. Helping the lady wife out with some house jobs. And enjoying myself. And of course, now I'm doing plain tales every fortnight. There's one today, and I've got now 2 weeks to produce the next one. So I'll be getting on with that shortly.
Excellent. Looking forward to this episode's installment.
Thanks.
And me, let's see, what do I have? I am officially on vacation. I started it on Sunday, and I don't think I really have a heck of a lot to talk about other than we do have the new merchandise in the APG store, and I'm assuming that Liz is showing that right now. Okay, there we go. So there you see the unisex version and the women's version of the t-shirt, and the stickers are available there. And just to be sure that we are clear about this, because I don't think I expressed it well enough last week, I am printing here in the basement print shop studio sleeping facility in this house, in the former APG headquarters building, where I'm residing at the moment temporarily. We have I made some, what do you call these things? Heat transfer things that I'm going to be printing with my heat press on some shirts. And this is separate from the ones that are available via the merchandise, the store, APG store. These are ones that are going to be hand done by me. And I'm going to take those with me up to Oshkosh, and I'll make sure that I have a Sharpie with me as well so I can sign them if you want. And so we are I'm about 60 of those or so, so not a heck of a lot of them. But if you are someone listening right now, okay, listen, and you're going to Oshkosh and you see me, ask me for your free t-shirt. And hopefully I'll have one still left over in your size. I limited it to medium, large, and extra large in both men's and women's t-shirt sizes. So if you can deal with that, they'll be available until they run out. So, and if you are not going to Oshkosh and you want to have an Osh APG shirt, then they're available by the links that I'll have in the show notes, or you can just go to the website, go to APG store, and then click on the that top banner, which will take you to the Teespring store, and then you can order one for yourself, and it'll be delivered to you directly. So there you go. What else did I have there, Liz? Oshkosh EAA Air Venture 2022. Yes, I'm going there. I canceled my non-air-conditioned dorm room and signed up for my spot in Camp Scholler campsite. I'll be there in my new tent, which I have actually I received about a week or two ago, and I've set it up. Not outside though; it's in my basement here in another room. I haven't taken it down yet, Liz. I need to do that though soon. I probably should go somewhere nearby and actually go outside and set it up and make sure I know what the heck I'm doing. I just want to make sure that I don't look like a complete idiot putting up a tent at Oshkosh. And going to plan on getting up to Oshkosh Air Venture like middle of next week is the target. So I should be there about Wednesday, Thursday-ish, and be there until at least midweek during Oshkosh, maybe toward the end of the week. And then after that, am I allowed to say this, Liz? Okay. Liz is going to do her annual trip up to the cottage by the lakes north of where she lives right now in Toronto. And she's invited me to come by and visit her in her cottage. Oh, and nice. So I'm going to be making a trip up, I guess, north of Oshkosh up toward the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and then Sault Ste. Marie, Canada, and along Ontario and the lakes up there, and then down toward wherever it is that you're going to be. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it too. Spend a couple days there and before I have to get going heading back to Atlanta because I have a trip that I'll be flying on most likely on Monday, the 8th. So anyway, so it's going to be a big trip. It's going to be fun. So hey, if you're going to Oshkosh this year, please make sure that you look for me because I'll be looking for you, and I plan on having a good time. And we do plan on recording a show. How would they meet up with me, Liz, at Osh? I don't know. Look for a guy with gray white hair and a big white mustache.
Are you not taking the flagpole and the flag?
You know, I thought about it. I'm not sure. I might. It depends on how much room I have in the car. Right now, the car is going to be very, very packed with lots of stuff. So I may or may not have the APG flag with me. But yeah. I'll be posting things on the social medias and such to let you know where I am and where I'm going, and people are going to want their T-shirts. But I think I don't know if you've heard of this thing called Camp Bacon, but I think I'm going to be in that area of Camp Scholler, and right now I don't know if that's really been defined yet. But yeah, if you look for Camp Bacon, that's where I should be. But I'll be out there on the flight line and displays and that kind of thing too. What does Neil say? Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, don't do that. You'll never find me if you do that, Neil. There's no throng of groupies, trust me.
No, there
anyway,
definitely is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that is that. And I'm on vacation until, as I said, probably the 8th of August. Cover art from the last episode, the Captain's Rap. I don't remember this, Nick. I must have had so much alcohol in me. I just didn't remember this concert that we were in.
Absolutely, nice. Yeah. Well, you look a bit maxed out there, actually. Don't you?
Yeah, you do too. At least I'm not wearing my hat backwards like you are.
Yeah. It's actually a memory of the Oshkosh that we were there together, because that's where that picture was taken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember that background though. I must have been spaced out or something.
Yeah, you usually are, Jeff. Yeah, no, that was we were talking about a rapping. I'm not quite sure why. Some rap artist on my aircraft wanted a recording, but
it has something to do with you and a rapper on a flight that you had, and your voice for his recording. Remember?
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, and that was me with my Oshkosh windsock on my hat. Exactly right.
Ah.
Oh, and I thought I ought to explain what I had in my background. It was in memory of my first time meeting Nick, the other Nick Camacho, and Betty's Biscuit Bomber when they landed at Duxford here in the UK for a remembrance of the D-Day landings a few years ago. So I took a number of, it was great photography situation, and took a number of pictures of Betsy's. I keep calling it Betty's, but it's not. It's Betsy's Biscuit Bomber.
Betsy's Biscuit Bomber.
It's written right behind your
just
right
look over
there.
to your
just
right.
Turn, just
you can read it.
You're the right.
So when you were saying the background, I thought you were talking about the background that you and I were like that bright pink, purplish, and I think, what does that have to do?
That's like going back to the womb, that background, isn't it?
Yeah, that's like, what does that have to do with Nick Camacho?
I'm
not following this at all.
No, nothing. No, I'm just taking pictures.
Ah, gotcha.
Spirit of the American West. Yeehaw!
That airplane right there that's behind Nick right now, whatever your name is, will be at Oshkosh this year. So that's going to be fun too. And maybe, I don't know how this is going to work out, but it's a possibility that we might be doing our live show maybe somewhere near / underneath the wing of that airplane. I don't know. Just depends on how it goes. And yes, I think that our control room is now telling me to play this, which is the
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
Hey, this is the Java Jive APG version done by Jeff Smith, spelled with a G. This is the time of the show where Captain Nick and Dr. Stuff leave to use the toilet. Yes, the facilities. Looking at my little view of the video thumbnails here. Anyway, so they left me to tell you about the Coffee Fund, which is your way to support the show financially, if you desire to. And if you do, we really do appreciate that. So the first method to participate is called the Coffee Fund Classic method, which is just like a one-off type of thing, which is what Jason Payne did. Thank you, Jason. He gave us a nice, generous one-time donation via the Coffee Fund Classic method, which is PayPal. And we do appreciate that, Jason. Welcome aboard the Coffee Fund. The other way to participate is via Patreon. You can become a patron, and no new patrons since the last show. So check it out. Head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee and you'll learn about how you can become part of this great group of folks. You'll be glad you did, and we will too.
Captain, incoming message.
Yes, I just wanted to get that on the recording before I started or paused.
Hello?
Okay.
Oh.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, I was listening to Liz. I think that's a good idea. So I'll just have to put in a clean version of the Coffee Fund. Oh, we're going to go to...
a clean version? Why? Were you swearing?
Keep playing the explicit version.
Yeah, we had the explicit version going on. Jeff Smith, yeah, he's kind of a wild man. The suggestion was made by our control room that we go ahead and go directly to the plain tail, and that way Nick can be on his way after we play that and discuss it a little bit. And then how's that sound, Nick?
Absolutely fine. I might be able to stick around for a couple of feedbacks if there's anything relevant.
Okay. You want to maybe do a feedback or two and then plain tails?
Yeah, that'd be super.
Okay. Good. So I don't have to change
No
anything
rush.
then in my edit. Good. Because I played the feedback over the top of the trailing edge of the Coffee Fund. Liz was just looking out for you, Nick.
Well, I know she worries about me, but I'll be fine, I think.
For good reason.
I've got a nice cold beer here still.
Excellent.
So he's
oh,
got
okay.
time.
Well, you got to drink that. Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Excellent.
that's at least 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, is
Maybe
there
7,
anything in
just watching
particular,
Harry's drinking.
Liz, that you think that might be something we want to do while Nick is here with us? Number 7. Oh yeah, that's always a good one. Maybe 8.
There's one about an old
yeah,
pilot.
Yeah, Karen's good.
Oh, 10. Oh, just kidding. That's 80-year-old
7
pilot,
and
not just
13.
old pilot.
Well, you don't want to
Quite
play the
there yet.
80-year-old pilot because that's going to make Nick feel really bad.
Oh, it makes
7
me feel
and 13.
young, that will.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go to 7. We'll start off our feedback with this from Ivor. Oh, wait a minute. I usually play something when we do an Ivor piece of feedback. If I can find it or not. Probably not. Yeah, I'll add it in post. Good point. All right, let's start off with this from Ivor. Dearest aviation podcasters, Nick, Jeff, Steph, maybe Rick, and our newest host, Nick the Commando, I write to you today to inquire about how you pass those pleasant hours, days waiting for your flight. My last experience was a delayed flight, but was surprisingly enjoyable. Firstly, we had booked British Stairways, little joke for Jen there, using the upfront seat option, so got to use the BA lounge. That made the whole business much more enjoyable. We even got to meet one of BA's most treasured customers, Mr. Neville Bounds. Is he always there at the BA?
He lives there.
lounge?
I think he's like
Oh.
Hillel. He's always in the bathroom.
Ah.
It's kind of it's like a.
They can't get rid of him. That's the problem.
I mean, he's at home, but surprisingly, whenever you are in the lounge, he will also be there.
I see. Okay, gotcha. I was saying, Mr. Neville Bounds, very pleasant and a great surprise, but what of other less fortunate souls? I'm thinking of scumbags like David Abbey or wasters like Andy Footlong.
He doesn't hold back, does he?
So charitable.
Yes.
To our-
Well,
our
in the United
listeners.
Kingdom, most towns have places called spoons. This is short for J.D. Weatherspoons, purportedly a public house that also allegedly serves food. The pricing of these establishments could be described as competitive or downright cheap. Now, I'm not going to comment on the clientele. Oh, sod, I will. It's the sort of place you can eat badly, get quite drunk, then watch a top-quality fight outside whilst waiting for your lift home. What more could you ask for? Well, it sounds very entertaining. Yeah. Now to the interesting part. The Weatherspoons Group appears to have a monopoly on pub dining establishments in most UK airports. If you want a beer at 5:30 in the morning pre-flight, Spoons comes to your rescue. I'm not against this, but don't expect me to join in. Just give me a coffee and a seat by a window to watch the aircraft. Now that I've railed against UK in terminal catering, what terrible things do other countries throw up? Pun intended. There must be some terrible things out there. Your opinions are eagerly anticipated. Looking forward to your tales of woe. Love and kisses. Your kind servant, Ivor MacDonald. Well, Ivor, I see the kind of man you are. Looking forward to our tales of woe.
So, surprisingly, I can comment on catering here in the U.S. I've been to quite a few airports around, and for the most part, they've really stepped up their game in the past few years. A lot of airports have had some pretty significant renovations, and they've really done a lot to try and bring in local restaurants and local breweries, and really, they want to make sure that people are taken care of while they're waiting for their delayed flights or whatnot. I will say though, here in the Queen City, they still have the local establishment Bojangles, where you can get some fried chicken and
some
whatnot.
good fried chicken.
Some good fried chicken. Not
is.
sure if it is good, and they're
Not
always
good for
open
you.
too. It's not good for you. I mean, if you're one step away from a heart attack, I might suggest skipping it. But it's
Oh, so
quite
I should probably skip
good
it.
and greasy, and it will lodge in your left ventricle there, just as well as anything. But it's delicious. Yeah, we really have some pretty good stuff. I don't know. What do you think, Jeff?
I think that I agree with you that they stepped it up and tried to improve the quality of the eating establishments and airports, but they've also stepped up pricing. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed in the last month or so, they've gotten outrageously expensive. They used to try to do like street pricing, I think they called it. Like it wouldn't be too much different from what you would find if you went to the same establishment off airport. But it seems to me like they threw that rule out the window, and it's just getting crazy out there for the prices you're having to pay
everywhere
for stuff.
right now.
Yeah.
Even the street pricing of things at actual street establishments. But I was laughing a little bit because he said, "How do you pass those pleasant hours/days waiting for your flight?" And I was thinking, well, I don't. I show up at the very last minute to the airport and have to sprint to make it to my gate usually. But this last go around, when I went to the ATL for the race on July 4th, I actually was at the airport early because I didn't have much else to do, and then my flight was delayed. What? So I could have used the lounge, but I noticed that Shake Shack was open, which is kind of a hit or miss thing for some reason. Can't quite figure out their hours. Probably has more to do with staffing than anything. And are you suggesting that my $20 Shake Shack burger and $14 beer from Wicked Weed might not be street pricing?
That's what we're suggesting.
I mean, it was delicious though. It was quite good. And then I ran a personal best time the next day, so I think the quality of the fueling was excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say though, it took forever to get my food. Shake
So
Shack.
the thing at a
Charlotte
lot of these
Airport.
airports, like Atlanta, maybe, I don't know, to maybe a lesser extent at Charlotte, they're having, staffing issues, like huge staffing issues. Like I don't understand any rhyme or reason for it, because there are times when I go there and one of the places like where I like to go for like a breakfast wrap or something like that, and not the rap music, but the wrap. Whatever you call that, tortilla or whatever it is they wrap it up
A
with.
burrito?
Yeah. They're open, and that's great. And then like the next day you're there and it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, and the whatever they call those bars or whatever, the chain,
The
gate thing over the top, and lights are out and nobody's there. So they're still trying to work out staffing issues at the Atlanta airport. It's getting better.
No, it's the same. It's the same here. That's what I was kind of alluding to with Shake Shack. I can't quite figure out when they're going to be open or not. Sometimes like 5 o'clock on a Friday, closed.
Yeah.
And then what was it like it was like 8 o'clock Saturday evening open.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
Unsure.
Yeah. So I don't know what else to say as far as what to do while you're waiting for your flights. Yeah, watch the airplanes.
I had a friend of mine ask me today if it was worth it for an hour and a half to buy a pass to one of the lounges. And I said, well, are you going to eat $50 to $60 worth of food or beverage in the next hour and a half? And they said, well, no. And I said, well, why?
Not worth it then.
Why would you consider going in there? I said, it's probably a better idea to put in a podcast or something and just walk the airport footprint, get some steps in.
Or if somebody else is going to pay for it, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I after 25 years with my old company, they gave me a free pass to all the Virgin lounges. So
nice.
If I go to Heathrow, which I don't think I've actually done since I retired, getting
a lot of use out of that perk.
Exactly.
I guess I figure we could just give these away.
This guy's never coming to the airport.
Yeah.
He's seen enough of the airport. Give him a free pass.
I think that's exactly why they did it. Yeah. And of course, when you're working in other airports, there's plenty of food on the airplane. So you just beat feet for the airplane and grab the galley food and cook something up. I mean, in the old days, they used to have pre-flight rations for the crew, and they had toasted cheese and ham sandwiches and that sort of thing. They were absolutely gorgeous. And the girls, as soon as they came on board, would slam 50 of those into the oven, and that was served the captain. So
I wasn't sure if he was talking about the food or the girls for a second there. I'm still unsure, but it was the old days, so things were a little bit different.
Could be both. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it was, all the food we needed was on board, so we never ate at the airport. Why would you spend money for something that you get for free on board?
Yeah, like when you get something to eat at the airport and they see you're an airport employee, they go, you don't want anything to drink, do you? No, because it's an airplane. We got
actually, most airports give you a 15-20% discount, so you can eat reasonably inexpensively in the airport if you want to.
Charlotte does, or they used to.
Cool. Some airports do. My home airport, the one that I've been flying for more than 33 years, no.
Oh no, really?
Well, you could check in Charlotte the next time you're here. I'm pretty sure they do.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that. So, how long does this pass go for, Nick? For the rest of your life?
Well, I'm assuming so, but I haven't read the small print.
You'll find out next time you try to use it.
I'll pitch up and show my pass, and they'll go, this ran out 10 years.
That was only good
ago.
for a year.
And I said I've been retired for 5. So
does Jilly get in too?
I think she might. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right, number 13.
I'll leave her outside.
You'll leave her outside. Wow.
You wait here. I'm going to go in. Food, beverage.
Yeah.
Nice bathrooms.
I'll wrap something up in a handkerchief and pass it out.
Okay. Receives the number 13 from Karen. First time feedback. She says, here's some video feedback I recorded today, which we're going to play here in a second. I appreciate all you do to entertain and educate listeners with all things aviation. I feel like you all are my friends after listening week after week. Jeff, can't wait to hear of your road tripping adventures. It's a fabulous way to see our great country. I'm originally from the upstate of South Carolina, so I can picture the places Dr. Stuff talks about each week.
Woohoo.
I get a chuckle every time I hear Liz laughing in the background. Yeah, me too. And Nick, the Plaindales, excellent research and storytelling. Anytime I have a hard time getting to sleep, I just play a portion of a show where Rick is explaining a technical system on the Boeing. It works every time. But seriously, I'm deeply grateful for all of the time and effort you each put into producing this podcast. Blue Skies and Tailwinds, Karen Larson, and she and her husband have a beautiful, what is it called? One of the
Super Cub.
It's a
Super Cruiser?
Cub, but it's
Super
no, it's a
Cruiser.
Cub, but it's not an original one. It's like a carbon.
Oh,
Cub,
the
I
Carbon
think.
Cub.
I think it's
I haven't watched her
painted
video
this
yet.
beautiful
This'll be-
blue, and which I think you'll see in the background of her video. Blue Cub Adventures. They are on Instagram, so follow them. Blue Cub Adventures, all one word. And without further ado, let's play her. Now, I think she mentions it in her video, so let's just go ahead and play it.
Hello, APG crew, APG community. My name is Karen Larson, and I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener. Well, for a couple years anyway, back to episode 376 or so. You guys were my entertainment during COVID. And I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate all the hard work you guys put into the podcast. Hours and hours of entertainment for myself and so many out there. So you said about video feedback on the last episode, so I thought while I was out on my little excursion this morning, I'd kind of record a little feedback and send it your way. Hope that's all right. Again, my name is Karen, and my husband and I both fly for major airlines here in the U.S. I'm based in Denver on the 737. He's based in JFK on the Airbus. And yes, we have the Airbus versus Boeing feud all the time, and I'm happy to report that the Cub always wins. So this is what we do for fun on our off days. We do the backcountry flying thing out west here. Right now I'm in Wyoming. This is called the Miracle Mile. It's a stretch of the North Platte River that has world-class trout fishing, fly fishing. Folks from all over come to this area and fish. This airstrip was put in by the Recreational Aviation Foundation, and they take care of lots of strips all over the country for recreational pilots to use to fish and hunt and camp and just have a good time with the great outdoors. So we spend our summers in Wyoming. We live in a travel trailer the majority of the year. Our home base is Cheyenne, Wyoming, but we spend the summer mostly in Casper, Wyoming. And then in the shoulder seasons, we spend our time down in the Moab, Utah area. There's a lot of backcountry strips down there, old uranium mine strips that the Utah Backcountry Pilots Association caretakes for those strips, and we help out, do our part by cleaning up some of those strips and replacing windsocks and those kinds of things. So usually we just throw the tent in the back of the airplane, go land on a strip somewhere, pitch the tent, have a campfire, do a little hike, do some exploring, enjoy the great outdoors. It's a great reprieve from the rat race of the airline world. Be down in a canyon somewhere completely off the grid. But that being said, I love flying, so I don't really mind what I'm flying, just as long as I'm flying something. It's all great fun. My experience for the background of my flying is through charter, 135 for 15 years. Flew King Airs and Hawkers and Citations out on the East Coast, and then got on with a major airline just about 7 years ago. My husband and I met while we were flying charter in corporate, and he was actually my co-pilot. Anyway, he got on with his carrier about 9 years ago, and we've been enjoying flying this little airplane for about 3 years now, and just kind of trying to enjoy life since we're not guaranteed retirement, trying to make the best of it when we can. No kids, so allows us the freedom to be able to come and go as we want to. And having the travel trailer allows us the opportunity to kind of pick up and move and go wherever we want. So it's not for everybody, but it works for our life, and we're trying to just get as many adventures in as we can. So anyway, just wanted to say hi. Hope to see a couple of you maybe at Oshkosh this year. It's always good to connect with friends each year at Oshkosh and enjoy the airplanes. I'll maybe include a video of me landing this morning just to give you a little taste of what it's like to be in the flight deck of the mighty Carbon Cub. All right. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
So nice. That's flying right there. You hear that sound? That's the stall warning, I think. I hear that all the time, the 717.
Do you?
No.
Super
Just
cool.
kidding.
Amazing airplane, and wow, that's a nice setup in the cockpit of the mighty Carbon Cub.
Oh,
fancy
absolutely.
stuff going on there for a little backcountry airplane.
I love the idea of throwing a tent in the back of your aircraft and heading off to some, specially laid out little grass strip and camping for a few days. That sounds perfect, doesn't it?
She's after my heart. I mean, I don't even think they live, from what I gathered on that, is that they live the full-time RV lifestyle, and they just got to move from place to place and have this wonderful airplane. And man, I can't wait. Karen, she's in our live audience. Thank you so much for doing the video feedback. Brilliant. That's awesome. I love seeing the community members, not only hearing your voice, but also seeing you on video and that beautiful airplane. Look forward to seeing you up at Oshkosh in like a week and a half or whatever it is.
I love the fact that you're Boeing and Airbus, and it must lead to some interesting discussions.
I'm glad the Cub always wins, though, as it should.
Yeah, that's super.
GA flying for the win, always.
And from what I can gather here,
you
Karen...
You don't sit side by side in that Cub, do you? One
no, Cubs are tandem seating.
Oh, are they? Okay. Right.
Yeah.
It's 2 seats.
And
even for someone like me?
Well, there's actually a fair amount of room in there. You could fit in a Cub.
Cool. I think so, yeah. And I gather from the video there, Karen, that you have seniority over your husband. That's a good thing. It's good to be king.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Very good.
Yeah. All right.
Great
you can fly from either seat, she says. And so I guess full controls in the front and back. That's very, very cool. What a great... I loved hearing the purr of that engine in that Carbon Cub. And Steph can vouch for this. After we were floating in the lake in South Carolina when we watched the full eclipse, there was I think it was a Carbon Cub that was on floats that came and landed behind us.
I don't remember what kind of aircraft it was, but there was,
It was a Carbon Cub, I'm pretty sure.
Carbon Cub? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was a yellow Cub. I don't think it was an original one. I think it was a Carbon or a Legend on floats. And I started actually doing some research to figure out how much money that was going to cost me of my retirement funds to get one of those things.
Someday when I have my act together, I think I could park one on my dock.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, way to go. That would be perfect, wouldn't it?
Anyway. Well, thank you again, Karen. And I think now would be a good time to go to our Plaintail episode for this week. And I'm just trying to find it right here. And here we go. It is entitled The Grade 2 Listed Centrifuge. Take it away, old pilot.
The old pilot's plain tales. The Grade 2 Listed Centrifuge.
A recent BBC news programme caught my eye when I realised it involved our great friends at the Farnborough Aviation Sciences Trust Museum. It reminded me of the group of sadistic so-called doctors who populated the Institute of Aviation Medicine and tortured generations of unsuspecting and innocent RAF aircrew in machines such as the one the article featured, a centrifuge.
This aforementioned device, which resembles a vast witch's ducking stool crossed with an Iron Maiden, first operated in 1955 but was decommissioned as recently as 2019 and has now received Grade 2 protection. To be listed by Historic England in this manner gives the centrifuge the status of a protected structure, which means that someone can't easily chuck it on the scrap heap, and for the next 2 years at least it will be put on display as part of an exhibition attached to the Fast Museum. There were, of course, parallel organisations in other countries which made similar groundbreaking strides in the subject of aviation physiology, primarily in France, Germany and the United States. The history of British military aviation medicine is centred around the Institute, although that august body was a relatively late arrival and individual services, namely the Army and the Navy, had their own medical organisations that weren't specifically aimed at pilots. The physiological problems that pilots might encounter in their line of work had been appreciated very early on, as early as 1794, when the French formed an aeronautical company of observation balloons used in the Austrian conflict. The Americans also operated balloons during the Civil War and the British Army in the Boer War. In 1878, the British had formed a balloon school, which was the same year that Paul Burt wrote his seminal monograph Pression barométrique, which brought about a greater understanding of the effects of altitude, particularly that of the partial pressure of oxygen with reduced barometric pressure. Wilbur Wright had published an article in Flight magazine entitled Aviation and Common Sense, which contained some colourful descriptions of ailments suffered by aviators, such as hemorrhaging from lips and fingernails and the loosening of leg bones in their sockets. He also recommended the use of laxatives before flight to excite the circulatory organs, and that bleeding would relieve feelings of congestion and lividity. As you can probably imagine, however, it was the First World War that brought about any serious progress in the developing field of aviation medicine. Previously, there had never been any specific concern about the fitness of those who took to the air, but as accident rates grew, it was suggested that a medical board vetting be performed on prospective aircrew. Today it is well known that various conditions, both chronic and acute, may seem innocuous on the ground but can cause great distress when cold, hypoxic, and at a reduced atmospheric pressure. Since every failed aviator cost the Royal Flying Corps £2,000, the work of this board soon became highly regarded, and it moved from its rather incongruous setting of the Cecil Hotel in the Strand to a proper headquarters. The prevailing attitude towards the qualities needed by a pilot were well illustrated by a paper published in the renowned medical journal The Lancet of September 1918. It described an aviator's character as possessing resolution, initiative, presence of mind, a sense of humour and sound judgment. They should also be alert, cheerful, optimistic, happy-go-lucky, a good fellow, and frequently lacking in imagination, perhaps so they wouldn't dwell on the many ways that their chosen profession might kill them. Inevitably, good pilots were sportsmen, went to the theatre, danced, liked ragtime music, and indulged in riotous behaviour at least a couple of times a month. The RAF Quarterly advocated horse riding, which developed an eye for the country, good communication, and capable hands. When it came to selection, a more objective approach was obviously needed, since aircrew were now regularly flying in hostile conditions, altitudes of 20,000 feet without oxygen, temperatures of minus 20 degrees centigrade in open cockpits where hypoxia and frostbite were constant companions. Pilots often flew without safety belts, parachutes, or protective helmets. In addition, the psychological toll of operational flying was becoming self-evident. The dangers of hypoxia were already well documented as far back as 1875. Joseph Koch Spinelli, Theodore Civelle, and Gaston Tissandier had flown a balloon to 28,200 feet, but during the ascent they all fell unconscious. Tissandier came around during the descent to find both his colleagues had died. The problem of oxygen starvation amongst aircrew had been recognized, particularly for photographic reconnaissance flights when long periods were spent at altitude to avoid the enemy guns. The erratic behavior of observers who became confused and mishandled their cameras or photographed the wrong places were common. Pilots might fail to engage the enemy and wave cheerily at them instead. Landings after such flights were often poorly performed, and the crews unsteady on their feet, complaining of long-lasting and severe headaches. Aircrew selection now included attention to a low heart rate, particularly when under stress, slow, deep respiration, and large lung capacity, all of which indicated good tolerance to low oxygen levels. The cure, of course, was to provide oxygen, but the equipment was crude. Mask designs were poor, uncomfortable, and inefficient, and sometimes just consisted of a pipe to clamp between the teeth. They were constant flow systems that wasted much of the oxygen. It was the Germans who were probably the most advanced in providing on-demand oxygen equipment, but even their efficiency failed to overcome the problems of moist exhaled air, freezing valves, and the dilution of the gas that inevitably occurred in the freezing blasts of air from an open cockpit that unsealed the mask. Staying warm was also a big problem, cured in some extent by the invention of the Sidcot suit by a then young naval aviator, Sidney Cotton, which I've talked about before. Helmets came about initially through the need to keep the head warm and were generally leather caps, but these left the face exposed and prone to frostbite. When advances in radio equipment required these caps to hold earphones and anchor oxygen masks, they became more efficiently designed, and eventually in 1917 the RAF produced the first Mark I flying helmet. In the same year, Oliver Sutton designed a superior restraint system that could hold the crew in place even when inverted. Disorientation was recognized as a deadly threat to pilots, particularly when operating without visual references, which is why cavalry officers were often selected to be trained, as they usually had good balance and stability. Balance tests were performed, not dissimilar to the sobriety test still used today to assess innate spatial orientation. It was still common for crews to damage their ears through pressure changes, and techniques to unblock the eustachian tube were not taught or practiced. Between the wars, advances in aircraft design led to new physiological problems being recognized. The effects of G on the body had been noted during the First World War during combat, but in the 20s and 30s, the great air races, with their tight turns being performed around pylons, ensured that the problem became more widely known. The consequences of increased G can be serious. Blood tends to pool in the lower limbs, decreasing blood pressure to the head. This is first noticed in the eyes, which, because of interocular pressure opposing blood flow, results in a dimming and then complete loss of vision. Consciousness is retained, but only for a short while, after which the brain shuts down, and if the G remains too high, death will follow. It was the RAF's involvement in the Schneider air races that became the catalyst for training a team of pilots to resist the high G environment. Muscle tensing was the simplest technique that improved resistance to around 4.5 G, but the first suggested mechanical assistance was proposed to be an inflating belt that was filled by a scoop, which opened into the slipstream under G via a bob weight. However, the high-speed flight team preferred to fly a wider turn, which reduced the G and retained performance. Other ideas surfaced, like flying in a prone position, breathing 100% oxygen, and the wearing of tight belts, but interest in the problem waned. The onset of World War II enlivened the RAF's attitude to aviation medicine, particularly when it was realized how far behind Germany Britain was. A Flying Personnel Research Committee of experts was formed who assembled to tackle some of the most pressing issues, such as providing reliable oxygen to aircrew and protection against high G. Other areas of urgent interest were also identified, such as reducing cockpit noise, improving visual standards, and the causes of fatigue. Labs were set up at the Royal Aircraft Establishment, Farnborough, which consisted of an unused corrugated iron lean-to shed, and their work started. This was the birthplace of what would become the Institute of Aviation Medicine. Within a matter of weeks, they were working on the effects of high altitude on the human body by borrowing and encouraging volunteers to clamber into the instrument department's noisy and cramped decompression chamber. In the months it took to assemble more permanent buildings and acquire their own equipment, they did important work establishing the mechanism that caused decompression sickness, evaluating oxygen systems, and discovering factors that might be used to select those not prone to the bends, to give it the common name. Those who worked there did not remain secluded boffins, but were often found on operational missions, studying the problems of night vision, dazzle, fatigue, air sickness, hypoxia and cold. They even flew with men suspected of low moral fibre to assess them and to bolster morale. They even flew with the Army Air Corps' 7th Bomber Group. They flew in India and the Far East. One particularly adventurous doctor turned guinea pig to trial an RAF system of picking up agents from enemy territory. He was attached to a harness from which a cable was suspended in the air. A low-flying aircraft used a hook to snatch the cable and drag the subject instantaneously into the air. The acceleration and shock left the volunteer pale and shaken, but amazingly willing and eager to repeat the experience. It was in the early stages of the war that the Air Ministry encouraged research into the effects of acceleration on the body. After all, a pilot who could withstand more G than his enemy would have a distinct advantage in a dogfight. The Americans had a centrifuge, and it had been used by the father of American aviation medicine, Harold Armstrong, to conduct his classic study on the effects of prolonged acceleration on the human body. The Germans also had one, but it would be another 10 years before money was made available for the British to build their own. The alternative was to use actual aircraft, which was arguably where the tests would finally end up anyway. wartime fighters could pull between +10 to +12 and -5G, and the motley collection of cast-off aircraft that the doctors at Farnborough could lay their hands on were not reliable enough to risk frequent experimentation at those levels. In the end, they used a Gladiator fitted with a camera and accelerometer to measure the G being pulled. At +6G, a pilot weighed more than half a ton. Limb movements were near impossible. The face became haggard. The trunk shrank by 2 inches. Vision greyed and then blacked out, but other senses remained. Upon recovery, there was often spatial disorientation, with a feeling of forward tumbling, extreme dizziness, nausea, and profuse sweating. They worked at measuring their own G thresholds, the value at which complete blackout occurred, and then experimented at what might affect it. This involved spiral dives from 20,000 feet, which allowed 30 to 40 seconds of constant high G. The subject's threshold improved with practice, but then stabilized, except when affected by something like a cold or other illness, or perhaps a hangover. It was surprising how detailed the observations were. Even without a centrifuge, it was established that the blackout occurred not because available light wasn't bright enough, or that the light-sensitive pigment in the eye lost sensitivity, but because of the pressure effects on the nerves leading from the eye to the vision centers of the brain. Much of this work was done by a young flying officer, Stewart, who, flown by experienced test pilots, was taken to a blackout over 200 times, which usually resulted in overwhelming feelings of lethargy, fatigue, impaired memory, headaches, sleep impairment, double vision, and inability to concentrate. This inevitably resulted in depression and antisocial feelings. His tenacity over a 2-year program resulted in him being awarded the Air Force Cross for his work. It wasn't until 1955 that the Institute acquired their own British-built man-carrying centrifuge at Farnborough, believed now to be the oldest example in the world of a centrifuge that has largely remained unmodified since it was installed. As was common with most centrifuges of its era, it could deliver a level of G appropriate for modern aircraft, but in its later life it couldn't replicate the rate at which this G could be applied. As such, after 65 years of vomit-inducing torture, it was stood down from duty. During its operational use, however, it made possible the investigations that led to the development of anti-G trousers and pressure breathing for G protection. Although not widely recognized, it was the United Kingdom who first invented pressure breathing for G protection, with all the initial work carried out on the Farnborough centrifuge. Combined with anti-G trousers, PBG is a system that equips the Typhoon fighter and enables the pilots to fly the aircraft to the limits of human endurance. The Farnborough centrifuge also enabled study of the adverse effects of G on the human body, gave high G training for UK fast-jet aircrew, was used for the selection and training of candidates for space exploration, and furthered vital research into the physiological effects of G on the human body, often done in collaboration with the United States of America.
Love it. Neil Landwarm in our live audience asks, have there been any long-term studies on the effects of high G exposure? And I answered stupidity and incoherence. Captain Nick is a great example of that long-term.
Exactly. They're all individual case studies, and you have to know one to.
Actually, as my Air Force career progressed, I discovered that to avoid high G, which the young bucks were very keen. They were very good at, flying the old 7-8G spirals downwards. I would go in the opposite direction. I'd go upwards. And as your speed reduced, you now ended up in a high angle of attack fight rather than a high G fight, which was much more suited to a man of delicate flying skills and not such good G tolerance.
Right. Interestingly, I was an instructor on the T-37, the Tweet in the Air Force, and it had the highest number of G loss of consciousness episodes of any airplane in the inventory, and basically because the G onset rate of that airplane was higher than anything out there, including the F-16, F-15, because if you snatch that stick, I mean, you would go right into 6 Gs or more.
Yeah.
That's my excuse, yes, Liz. But
how many G locks?
I don't think I had any that I can recall, but I don't remember a lot of the flying that I did. Yeah. Anyway, we didn't have G suits on the T-37. When you went on to the T-38, then you had the G suits, and the rate of G onset was lower in that airplane. And then you had the added effect of having the G suit. But the last time I wore a G suit was, I guess, 1983, when I graduated from pilot training. But anyway, you have a lot more experience in G, higher G level existence.
Well, yeah, I used to be pretty good at it, but my
9G for 40 seconds. Wow.
Yeah, that is impressive, and with the right equipment, it shouldn't be too hard. But obviously, it requires a lot of physical effort because muscles training still remains a very large portion of your G ability to tolerate that amount of G, and that's a very physical thing to do in the middle of a fight, because you're doing your best to fly the aircraft as accurately as can whilst bearing down on all your muscles and your stomach to try and keep yourself conscious. It's a difficult combination. But
physiological speaking, people like you, Nick, who are taller, it's harder for you to maintain proper G levels.
Of course, Douglas Sparta had great G tolerance because he didn't have any damn legs. Lucky man. Actually, and the RAF didn't ignore the problems during the Second World War, because they actually put stirrups up so that when you went into combat, you could take your feet off the rudder pedals and hook them much higher so that your legs were level with your hips. And as such, it made it easier for the blood to return from your limbs compared with when they were down at the bottom of the cockpit. So that was an assistance, a help, but it wasn't really the same as wearing, like you and I had, Jeff, anti-G suits. And nowadays, of course, they've got this pressure breathing under G, which has the ability to reinflate those portions of the lung that would be crushed by G. Because, all those little alveoli, is that the right term?
I think so, yeah.
Steph?
Alveoli.
Alveoli, yeah. They press up against the
with the red
cage.
sauce. It's really good.
It's one of the reasons
ravioli,
why lying prone is not as effective as you might think for G, because your lungs are partially collapsed under G when you're lying prone. If you reinflate them using pressure breathing, then you can regain some of that lost oxygen transfer, which is fascinating. And the aircraft with reclined seats, of course, that becomes quite important for them. But it was bloody hard work, to be truthful, as IL will tell us if he was able to. And you needed to be a fit young man. And by the time I was retiring, I was very glad that the damn tornado didn't pull many G's very often. So,
I can tell you, I know just from like roller coasters that I'm not great at
okay.
mitigating the effects of
bloke with
Gs.
high blood pressure.
Was that?
It helps if you're a fat bloke with high blood pressure.
Not a tall,
It
skinny
does.
person whose blood tends to end up in their feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
A short, plump person like me. We're good at G exposure.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question. That bloke that you talked about, Stewart, the one over 200 blackouts, is he in relation to Stuart Aslett, the guy that suggested that we have the Farnborough 2016 big meetup?
Well, you never know. And of course,
making more sense now.
Yeah. Yeah, that really was. I mean, the guy was a very determined doctor who went on to great things. He became an Air Vice Marshal and a very eminent physiologist in the field of aviation medicine. But back then, as a young flying officer, I don't know what was in his head. But
so
there's
your case study on the long-term effects of IG exposure.
Absolutely. Yeah, brilliant. But those of us who have been through the hands of the guys in the aeromedical branch know all their tricks, and whether it's sticking you in a black box and spinning you around in all directions, or firing you up in altitude in a hyperbaric chamber, 25,000 to 45,000 in 3 seconds. Thank you very much. That was just no fun.
No. Hey, but it's not all negative. IL says at age 43 it became very hard. That's what she said. Thank you, IL, for sharing that.
Yes.
Seems like a personal note.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
I mean, Nick tried to tell us about a few personal things already today. Different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention my keto diet, but I didn't get around to it. So I'm on a no carb diet right now. And it's playing havoc with my digestive system. My digestive system is not enjoying that at all. And I've been on it for like over 2 months now. So.
Oh, you'd think by now it had gotten used to it, but apparently...
You would have thought, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Perhaps it's not going to be something I can keep going in long term, but there you go.
Well...
But discussing my alimentary canal is probably not the ideal thing for right now. So I'm going to leave you. And head for bed.
All right. Well, we appreciate you being with us for as long as you were, and we hope that you get some good rest and continue to perform at those high levels that you've been performing with the bowls.
With the bowels.
Well,
the bowls.
And the bowels, too. Yeah. Not so much the bowels. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed.
Sure.
My bowels will be very happy, and so will my bowels.
Good. Win-win. All right. Take care, Nick.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Good night, Nick.
Oh.
All right. Let's see. Let's look at some more feedback, shall we?
Let's do
shall we
it.
just start right up? Which one would that be? Number 3?
Number 3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is from Simon. RNP approach A320 feedback. He says, hi all, hope this feedback finds you well. Sorry that it's a bit long, and please feel free not to play it if it's a bit too much. Okay, we won't play it then. Let's move on to number 4. No, I'm just kidding. We will play it. It's definitely worth it. Thank you, Simon, for sending it in. So here we go. Without further ado, Simon, tell us about RNP approaches.
Hello, APG crew. This is Simon from the UK. It's been a couple of years since I left some feedback for you, and I'm sorry it's taken so long, but life has got in the way. Well, COVID and my airline collapsing has got in the way. Anyway, hopefully things are starting to get better. And the reason I wanted to get in touch and leave feedback today is to do with the news item on APG 524, which I'm just finishing listening to now. And it's relating to the GetJet Malta A320 at Paris on May 23rd, 2022. Now, I'm not going to try and speculate what's gone on there. Obviously, I have no more information than anybody else. But it does raise perhaps a few interesting points relating to RMP approaches. Actually, most non-ILS approaches, but RMPs particularly are susceptible to this error that we've seen in this instance. So what I thought I'd do is just talk about things that I see in my current day job, which is doing training on the Embraer, teaching the initial ground school and conversion courses. So perhaps it's easiest first if we consider something like an ILS approach before we look at RNPs. And for those of us who are familiar with ILS approaches, we'll probably remember that they follow a ground-based radio aid, which then guides us to the runway, usually set to nominal 3 degrees, looking at the difference between two radio lobes to what we call the glide slope antenna. So no matter what you set the altimeter to, your ILS will guide you down that slope, no matter how hot, no matter how cold it is, no matter how high the pressure is, no matter how low the pressure is. We always have a reliable slope. Unfortunately, nearly every other type of approach that we follow doesn't have the benefit of that ground-based aid, and so we have to use barometric means to track down to the ground. And historically, that would be things like an NDB approach, a VOR approach. And every pilot has been trained, as you've covered in previous times, I know, the importance of checking that we've got the correct pressure setting, the correct QNH. And that's obviously what in this instant has happened. There's been an incorrect QNH setting, but it's how does that happen and how does it impact on the system? Well, the how it happens, of course, is going to come out in the investigation. But I certainly can tell you that I see particular common traits when I've got crews in the simulators, when I've got them in the flat panel training, when we're talking in the class. And one thing that often happens is the setup of both sides of the flight deck should be independent. In fact, they must be independent, really. So the captain should set their own pressure setting, the first officer should set this pressure setting, and then both sides should come together and compare that they've got the correct pressure setting. That's the ideal. That's what should happen. It's not unknown to see things go a little bit wrong. And maybe what happens is the captain tries to be very helpful and gives a little bit of assistance to the first officer, saying, oh yeah, the QNH is, and gives them the QNH. That's great if they give them the correct QNH. If they give them the wrong one, you've got a problem. Now, another place where we can get problems with QNH is if the crew are taking the voice ATIS rather than the digital ATIS, which comes through the printer. Through the printer, it's difficult to see how you could get the wrong ATIS or copy the wrong ATIS down. The voice ATIS, though, it is easy sometimes to get the wrong information, and particularly places like Paris where the ATIS is historically known for being very long and full of irrelevant information, and also read at incredibly high speed by a non-native speaker of English. So there are problems there. There are potential areas where you can get the incorrect information. And unless both of you are listening to the ATIS, which you shouldn't really be doing, one of you should be listening and on the comms talking to ATC. One should be off box one listening to the ATIS. There is a hole in there. Okay, so why do RMP approaches present a particular problem with QNH? Well, it's because when we fly an RMP approach in what we call LNAV, VNAV, that brings us down to what in the old days we would have considered a non-precision approach minima, 2D approach minima. So for 27 right, for a Category C aircraft like the A320, that minima is 752 feet, which equates to a height of 360 feet. This is for 27 right over at Paris Charles de Gaulle. The platform altitude is 5,000 feet, and the aircraft descends from 5,000 feet all the way down to the minima. Hopefully visual reference is acquired, and we continue and land. And all the way down from that first inset point, 5,000 feet, which is about 14 miles out, 14.3 miles actually from the touchdown point. The designers of the approach provide the crew with check heights at each individual mileage or so, and that's presented on the Jeppesen plate or the Lido plate, whatever you might be using. So, for example, at 12 miles, we would say the altitude should be 4,270 feet. We get to 12 miles, we look at the altimeter, and it says 4,270 feet. It will always say that on a functional RMP approach. The reason is that's what the system's doing. It's targeting all those altitudes that are on your plate and just flying to each one. And it doesn't know if those are correct or incorrect pressure settings that are set on the altimeter, unfortunately. That's the big downside of the system. So in the case of this crew, they'd set a pressure setting which was 10 hectopascals out, which equates to 270 feet, 300 feet for cash. What that means is the aircraft flew 300 feet low all the way down the approach, down to the minima. And had that aircraft, for whatever reason, continued below minima to a landing, that would put it about a mile short of the threshold. Be a big problem. So how do we mitigate this? Well, the first thing is, of course, we check that we've set the correct QNH. It's worth asking the controller to confirm the QNH once you're established on the inbound course. The second thing you can do is you can look at the radio altimeter and confirm that that's reading sensibly. Obviously, unless the ground is completely flat around you, there will be slight differences, but it can highlight gross errors. A 300-foot difference may well show up and be in your scan, but you've got to look at it and check that it's reasonable. So always watch out for those ones, I think. The other thing that I often come across with crews in training, which surprises them, is they think that the EGPWS system is going to keep them safe. It's going to tell them they're about to crash into the ground. And you'd like to think so, but the sad news is that it takes one heck of a big altimeter problem for that system to trigger. The reason is, as we get towards the runway, there's a thing called the terrain clearance floor. And this is a sort of protection for EGPWS to stop getting erroneous warnings. Obviously, we want to land the aircraft, so it knows you're approaching a runway, and as you get lower, it inhibits the warnings. And that terrain clearance floor means that as this crew would have been getting lower and lower, it wouldn't have been saying too low terrain, or any of those warnings that people think that might come up. Instead, it thinks, well, these guys are trying to land. So I don't need to tell them about that. The warnings are inhibited. There are some things that would trigger off, though. 1,000, 500, 50, 40, 30, 20. The rad-out call-outs would all be going off. And again, if you were hearing those with a mile to run, that should be one heck of a big red flag. So what are the takeaway points from this? Well, I think first of all, check again that you've got the correct QNH with any of these approaches. It doesn't matter if it's an RMP approach, whether it's an NDB approach, a VOR approach. Nowadays, we're using virtual glide paths on airplanes rather than driving it down manually. So the aircraft is going to target all the altitudes on the plate, which leads us to another point. Those altitude checks that we religiously read from plates and feel that we've, big gold star, we've done a great job, we've checked the altitude. It's arguable that they're completely pointless on these sorts of approaches. All we're doing is checking the system is working as designed, but we're not really checking where the airplane is anymore. So that's one to just have in the memory bank. And finally, the other thing to bear in mind is that this isn't an isolated incident. Many airlines have had similar incidents now with these sort of approaches with altimeters being set incorrectly. So if you're a casual observer, if you're just interested in this stuff, then hopefully you can see how by setting the pressure setting wrong, the aircraft can be lower than you really think it is, or higher indeed. And if you're flying these, I can only urge you just to be very, very careful with them. The technology is fantastic, and if you understand how to use it and you treat it very cautiously, it's brilliant. That's all from me, and hope you're all keeping well, and I will talk to you again at some point.
I hope so, Simon. I'm thinking that Simon, when listening to our discussion at the beginning of the show, our first news item, was probably yelling and screaming at his podcast playing device saying, this is what I talked about in my feedback. This incident, I completely forgot. We've had this feedback from Simon for at least a couple of shows, right, Liz? For a while, and I'd completely forgotten about it until I played this, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's talking about that incident that we covered at the very beginning. And I'm thinking, no wonder I knew so much and what to say, because I had listened to Simon's audio feedback, and that must have still been in my head somewhere. So thank you so much, Simon, for kind of recapping and really saying it better than we did.
I was going to say, you know what you should do is you should just go back to the beginning.
And just put that in the beginning.
And just put that in there. Yep.
Maybe I'll do
just
that
fix
in the
it
edit.
Post. Yeah. Just say, we tried to play this later on, but it really belongs a lot better right here. So
right.
Take it away, Simon.
Simon, and also I'm thinking, Liz and I were discussing the fact that you have such a great voice, and also that the quality of your recording sounds to me like you have experience in radio or some kind of voiceover work, because it just sounded really, really top notch. So thank you for the sound, and also the explanation of all the things that we attempted to cover, not quite as well, eloquently as you did there. And we honestly hope that you'll take the time to send in feedback in the future so we can sound smart again when we cover whatever it is you're talking about at the beginning of the show. No, we'll try to play it in a more timely manner. But yeah, as I said, I completely forgot that his audio feedback dealt with this particular incident, which, by the way, is kind of odd that it wasn't covered anywhere else, at least that we could see, like in the Aviation Herald or anything else. But I'm glad that somebody, was paying attention to it. Thank you, Simon.
Next.
Okay. Well, about 15 minutes left. What do you think, Steph? Do you want to do some more? What we could do?
One or two more. Or are there a couple that we should wrap up with, Liz?
Okay, number 9, she said, is a nice short audio. So,
okay.
Oh, this might be a good one. Yeah. Okay. This is from PN Pacific Northwest Hemp. Thank you. When I see a 3-letter identifier, I'm always thinking it has something to do with an airport, but that's a geographical region of the United States. Here we go.
Hello, APG crew. Pacific Northwest Hemp with a quick question. Do you have
and he even says it in his audio feedback.
Specific short field takeoff techniques, or do you use the same SOP for any runway length that satisfies the takeoff performance calculation? As a piston plane pilot, we have a fairly standard short field technique across types that mainly allows for making sure the engines, I guess, are making full power before beginning the roll. But it occurred to me that airlines may be operated differently. That's all I have for today, so thanks for your time.
Well, thank you, Pacific Northwest Hemp. I know that PNW stands for Pacific Northwest. That's a good question. Now, Steph, in your line of flying, you know a lot about short field takeoffs. In fact, probably most of the takeoffs you experience are short field takeoffs?
They're short field, but more as a function of the available power that we have, power to weight ratio in our aircraft that we primarily fly. We've got 5,000 feet of runway, so they don't have to be particularly short field for the type of aircraft that we're flying. But typically they're fairly short field, and we want to be up and climbing away from the airport environment pretty quickly. But unless there's something odd going on, or if we're in a different field from our own, our takeoffs are pretty standard. It's applying full power as we're rolling out onto the runway from the taxiway, flaps 20 in our 208, and rotating at about 70 knots. But we're not doing specific short field or soft field techniques most of the time, but you certainly can. Interesting. His question was really about, for from the airline perspective, if you're at say you're at I don't know, I'm thinking Chicago Midway is someplace that you fly to that has relatively short runways in comparison to, say, Atlanta or Charlotte.
Right. Well,
is there anything different that you...
Our takeoffs are the same regardless of whether we're taking off on a short runway or a very long runway. Everything is predicated on the weight of the airplane, the weather, meteorological conditions, the power that you're going to get out of your engines, etc. And everything is fed into a system. And in our case, we don't make the calculations directly in the airplane. This information is sent to a central department at Acme, load planning, and they put all the numbers in their sophisticated computers, and they send back to us via ACARS, the digital system for communications, weight data record, and it's all predicated on the number of passengers, the fuel load, as I said before, the temperature, the winds, all that stuff, and then we print it out, and the WDR is our Bible when it comes to setting the parameters for our V1 speeds, rotate speeds, V2 speeds, etc., and engine power settings. In most cases, out of midway, if it's like really hot and we're heavy, we would probably be operating the engines close to what we call normal takeoff power. And if conditions were, if we were a little bit lighter or the temperature was a little bit lower, then we might be able to, even at a short field length, be able to take off at a assumed temperature setting for the engine power, a reduced power takeoff. But as far as the way we fly the airplane or we rotate the airplane or whatever, it's
you don't
just
have
the
a
same.
different, and I guess this would actually really be more for, so you're thinking about short field. A lot of times these are with reference to, especially in the GA world, with clearing obstacles. The 50-foot obstacle is a lot of times what you're looking at. So you're thinking about the difference between your best rate of climb versus your best angle of climb. So for short field, you want your best angle, which is Vx, and then best rate would be Vy. So typically we're flying at Vy all the way up to our jump altitude because we want to get there as efficiently as possible and quickly as possible. But is that something that ever changes for you? Or it's all based on speeds?
The only thing that changes for us in the airline world, and at least my experience in it, is that there is a departure procedure that we'll use on certain airports. And right off the top of my head, the two that I recall that we use a different takeoff procedure, actually initial climb procedure, is out of Providence, Rhode Island, and out of San Antonio, Texas. And it is basically, normally what we do is when we hit 1,000 feet, the power of the engines reduce to climb power setting, and then we lower the nose a little bit. And if you're a passenger, you'll notice this at about 1,000 feet, the engine power comes back, the nose of the airplane comes down a bit, and then you start hearing the noises of the flaps retracting and the slats retracting, and we're accelerating. And then when we get to the climb speed, then actually in most cases, it's 250 knots. Which is the maximum speed below 10,000 feet, and then we start bringing the nose back up and continue with the climb power setting. There is a procedure that we continue at I think it's 1,500 feet. I always have to review it because we do it so very seldomly. You allow the engines come back to climb power setting at 1,500 feet, but you keep the nose up and you continue to climb out at a lower airspeed until you get up to 3,000 feet, and then at that point you lower the nose and then you start retracting the flaps and the slats, and then you proceed on as normal. So it's more to do with obstacles and noise abatement at certain locations than it does with the actual runway scenario, as far as clearing obstacles at 50 feet or whatever at the end of the runway. That's as I said, we don't change that. That always stays the same. It's just that during the climb and cleanup procedure changes a little bit. I think it's called, thank you, iHall boxes, NADP 1. We normally use NADP 2, but what I've described there is, or I tried to anyway, it was NADP 1 procedures. And I said, usually we'll notice that when we're reviewing the airport notes for the airport that we're operating into and out of. Sometimes you may not, like for Providence, for instance, I haven't been in there for probably over a year, maybe longer. San Antonio, it's been several years, and then who knows, I might end up having a trip that goes to Providence or San Antonio. So we look at these airport notes, and it has information about arrivals and certain procedures, departure procedures, gate, ramp procedures, that kind of thing. It gives us that current information, and that's where you'd see that this airport requires NADP 1 departure procedures. And so then we go, oh, okay, I guess I need to review that, because as I said, we very seldom use that NADP 1 procedure. So that's the only difference that I can see. We don't do anything with the short field thing. That just reminds me when I was taking my commercial single engine check ride at the executive airport in Jackson, Mississippi. I forgot the name of it now, but the instructor, my instructor, a fellow Air Force instructor, told me how to do a short field takeoff and a soft field takeoff. And I'd never heard of a combination of the two. And
sure. Yep.
Yeah, you said, yeah, sure.
We do those things all the time, actually.
Well, I'm the same guy that was like, when we were flying down, I was looking at the OBS and I go, what is that? And my friend said, oh, this is how this works. And I went, oh, okay. So glad I asked him, because when I went up on my check ride, the guy says, okay, well, how would you go if I told you to proceed directly to the Jackson VOR? How would you do that? And I could see it out my window. I said, well, it's right there. So I'd turn, and he goes, no, using instruments. So I went, oh. And I'm thinking to myself, thank goodness I asked my friend what that instrument was. So I explained exactly how my friend told me to use it. And he goes, okay. But when we came back into the pattern, he goes, okay, let's do a combination soft field, short field landing. I went, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea how to do what he just asked me to do. But apparently whatever it is I did, it was good enough, because I just made the one landing, and he goes, okay, that's good.
Lots of flaps, make sure you land at the first available point, and hold that nose gear up so that it doesn't sink into the
I don't know what I did.
soft muck that you're landing
I probably
in.
didn't do that. Probably didn't do that at all.
Short of field, soft landing. That's very nice. I-haul boxes. That's what that one flight tried to do on the wrong glide slope.
Short of field, soft landing. I don't want to do that.
With the wrong QNH setting. Not good.
I think the guy probably understood that I was just getting this so I could take my mom and dad up in an airplane out in California, and knew that I wasn't going to be doing this for a full-time gig. So he was a little bit more lenient with me, I think.
I'm sure your flying skills were excellent. Demonstrated
thanks.
all the appropriate
apparently
requirements.
I don't know. As long as he got his money for the examination, I think he was happy.
Cash.
Anyway. Is that going to be it, Liz, you think? Okay. All right. Let's do it then. Let's wrap this thing up. And as always, we point you toward our website, airlinepilotguy.com, where you'll find all kinds of good information there about the crew and the community and the community calendar, merchandise, the library, more information about the Plain Tale episodes or installments. What am I forgetting? Contact us, and you can I got the merchandise, store.
There's everything there. If you are wondering if you have any question about this podcast, it's on the website.
It's pretty much like AOL, back in the days before the internet. It's just like America Online. No, it's not really anything like it at all. But
you get that awesome dial-up noise too when you go to the website.
Yeah, you do. That's exactly what you're going to get when you go to the airlinepilotguy.com website. And we're also on the social medias. Seth is going to tell you all about it.
We sure are. And we'll probably talk about Facebook first. Yes, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. Nailed it. Join us there. You can also find us on Twitter. We're at APG Crew, and our individual Twitter handles are pinned to the top of that page. If Instagram's more your thing, APG Crew. And if you really want the deep dive, the behind the scenes, the everything and anything to do with APG, I suggest Slack. And Hillel did find his way.
Just turned up the fader there, and they don't ask me why I have a microphone in there. Hey, Hillel, you want to tell us about Slack?
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
Okay, that's all right. Come on over. Okay, I'm going to move out of the way. He's going to tell you all about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas, we suggest episode and Plain Tales topics, we plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
All right. Well, thank you, Hillel, for giving all that information. Yeah?
If I could walk over there, I wouldn't need the talcum powder.
I'm not sure what that means, but maybe get him some talcum powder.
Yeah.
Sounds like an urgent need.
The talcum powder is. I'll be right with you after we finish the show. Okay. Looks like Skype just went away for some reason.
Oh.
Interesting.
I
know why.
I turned it off because I'm coming over here.
You didn't need it anymore. Okay.
No.
I just heard the little Skype sound in my head.
Ba-ding.
All right. So let's. Sorry, I'm distracted so easily. Let's put out a big thank you for Liz Piper, our producer director.
You're welcome.
Who is so
As
busy
always.
behind the scenes with everything. Thank you, Liz, for all of your help. And we do appreciate that. And looking forward to seeing you. Well, next week, I'm thinking, I don't know where we're going to be doing, or I'm going to be doing the show next week. So just follow us on the social medias and you'll find out. And hopefully I'll see many of you listening to the show up at Oshkosh. And until then, wishing you blue skies, clear skies, unlimited visibility and tailwinds. Take care and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody. Sorry about that.
What a mess.
Smooth. That was so smooth.
I know. Professional right there. That's what I am.
Never done that before.
Oh, yeah. No.
Nope.
Like every other one.
Welcome to the dress rehearsal.
So it looks like Nick has landed on a title. We don't even have to give it to him. He's happy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What?
Did we
Well, I
decide
was
on a
looking for
title?
you. I heard you say that to me.
Oh, sorry. Maybe he
in the
just sent it
control
to
room,
me.
And I'm going
Yeah,
like,
he
what
did.
is she talking about? I don't see it.
He's gonna title it Jeff Tweets, and he's gonna reference your time flying the tweet trainers,
Oh.
and he can just put you on a Twitter logo.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So,
Yeah, the
it
tweet.
sounds
that was
easy
before my
peasy.
time.
Sounds easy
I was-
peasy.
So
I
all
was
of you hanging
tweeting
out
before-
there with show title suggestions, unnecessary. You have the night off.
Yeah.
At
Take a
ease.
break. Too late anyway. It's not going to do any good.
No, Nick has decided, and that's what happens.
Okay, let's. I do want to hear. I know that Liz and Nick has noted, and maybe Steph heard it as well. But the crackling stuff has come back. Is that true?
Yeah, you got a little bit of crackling going on.
Dang
I
it.
noticed it.
Well, that's no good. That means I have to go back to the other way of doing things then. Because last show we didn't have any, and that was because I was not using audio hijack. I thought for sure that audio bit rate thing was the issue, but I was wrong.
Oop.
Oh well, that's all right. We have ways of taking care of these things, so we'll figure it out, I guess. In a way, I kind of enjoy these kind of audio puzzles. Keeps my brain engaged.
It's part of the fun and joy of doing the show.
Yeah, it is, really. But it is frustrating, too, at the same time. All right, anything else we want to say before we let everybody go on their Tuesday evening or whatever time it is, wherever they are?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm hungry.
Again,
I'm sure they all are, too. So.
Next week, as I said, we're not sure. I may no, heck. I should be... I don't know where I'm going to be next week. I should be maybe this time on the road up to Wisconsin. So, yeah, I'll try to do regular updates via the crew logs on Patreon for those of you who are patrons. And so you can kind of keep track of what's going on with me. And then as soon as we know when we're going to be recording and all that, we'll put it out there in the social medias.
And we do have a bunch of feedback in the hopper, so don't worry if you haven't heard yours. It's in there. We're going to get to it.
Okay, good. That means, let's see, let me turn off my recorder. Boom. Save. All right.
Shall we end the broadcast then?
I think we should.
Sure.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.